Well, the PS5 Pro specs have landed, and reputable sources are claiming that these are in fact real, and if the specs are able to deliver on the boost that we are seeing in this round of leaks, the PS5 Pro will be the undeniable strongest console in the market, and it may even rival the average pre-built gaming PC that you see sold in stores. The response to this has been surprisingly divisive. Negativity about the need for a PS5 Pro tends to crop up every time that this subject trends, or we have new information or leaks, or recently we had the leaks about the release date, and everyone sort of says, what's the point? Why do you need one? But now the alleged boost to performance is becoming the focal point of this disagreement or these arguments. Current PlayStation owners are worried about the price. Those who gravitate to PC are casting doubt and skepticism on just how strong the PS5 Pro will be, and the Xbox loyal are responding in a variety of ways. Now, when we first heard about the goals of the PS5 Pro, I said that it would be market disruptive. This seems to be disruptive in a whole different way. Like, just the specs are causing disruption within the gaming community, which is, I think, an interesting thing to talk about, along with the specs. Now, if the specs and the boosts are accurate, I actually think the market disruption that I predicted is going to be more and more likely. Now, I put all the good information right here at the beginning of the video. It's in the form of an opening monologue. The video's longer because it's a live stream. If you want to be here for those live streams and discussions, make sure you hit subscribe and the bell button. That way you don't miss out on the content. So, as predicted, the PS5 Pro specs have leaked. It was only a matter of time, with the dev kits in the hands of the developers, that it would soon leak to the public. And we have reputable sources who have been able to verify the accuracy of these leaked specs. But it's not all being met with celebration and excitement. There is quite a bit to discuss here. So first, I want to look at the specs and the claims being made. The boost to performance sounds very promising if it actually is delivered, but not everybody is convinced we're going to see the boost in performance that are being boasted. Second, I want to look at the reactions to this, because I was honestly struck by how much negativity and arguments that I saw about this from a wide spectrum of consumers, right? There's people who own a PS5, there's those who consider themselves PC gamers, and then there are those who are sort of on the Xbox side of things, and everybody's weighing in with different opinions. Now, lastly, I will tell you what I think. In my previous PS5 Pro coverage, I talked about how I thought the device would be market disruptive, primarily because it sounded like another effort from PlayStation to target specifically what developers wanted. And I have said for a very long time that they can't win a spending war against Microsoft, but they can certainly win the content war if they convince a lot of developers to come and build for their platform. So first, what were the leaked specs? So we have to go to Insider Gaming for this, and I'm going to Insider Gaming because Tom Henderson got a lot of grief when he leaked the Project Q Lite, which ended up being the PlayStation Portal. And when the PlayStation Portal was announced, he flexed a little bit and he said, yeah, I wonder if people are going to believe my PS5 Pro claims now, right? The latest round of leaks started with the YouTube channel Moore's Law is Dead. Now, in the past, that channel has leaked things that turned out to not be accurate, so many, myself included, we didn't put a whole lot of stock into the claims being made by Moore's Law is Dead about this PS5 Pro. But Tom Henderson is reporting and saying that this is, in fact, accurate. And again, I'm giving Tom Henderson his flowers because he broke this way before everybody else did, and everybody cast doubt on him. Well, I think now you can start to believe this guy actually has sources, and said the following in their report. He said, speaking with sources who wish to remain anonymous because they were not authorized to talk about company plans, we can confirm that the leaked documentation from the YouTube channel Moore's Law is Dead is real. Now, Tom Henderson even acknowledges that Moore's Law, they've been criticized in the past, but according to Insider Gaming, the info has been vetted. Quote, Insider Gaming can confirm that the documentation leaked is from a PlayStation developer portal, which was sent out this week to a wider band of third-party developers. So basically what happened is, and Tom Henderson predicted this, he said, listen, once these dev kits get out in circulation, we're going to have our hands on the specs. It's just a matter of time. somebody's going to leak it, right? Now, he was good to mention his previous reporting on this. He says, in early 2023, I reported via Key to Gaming that the PS5 Pro is under the codename Trinity and will be targeting improved and consistent FPS at 4K resolution, a new performance mode for 8K resolution, and accelerated ray tracing. Now, I remember that specific part about the accelerated ray tracing. All of my research into ray tracing pointed to the fact that developers were continuing to gravitate toward ray tracing due to its streamlining and improving the lighting work. Now, for a while, I thought ray tracing was just a resource hog, just a gimmick to try to get people to buy games, but it's becoming more and more popular with developers for a reason. They like using it. So a console that was setting its sights on accelerating and improving ray tracing, I thought would be very appealing to developers and would cause market disruption, making devs gravitate towards building for PlayStation. Now, let's look at the newly leaked, and these specs are vetted. It will be rendering 45% faster than the PS5, 2 to 3 times better ray tracing, 4 times in some cases, 33.5 teraflops, this thing called PSSR, which is PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution Upscaling. It's an upscaling and anti-aliasing solution. Support for resolutions up to 8K is planned for future SDK version. Custom machine learning architecture, AI accelerator supporting 300 tops of 8-bit computation, 67 teraflops of 16-bit floating point. I have no idea what some of that even means, okay? But that's what's being leaked. But I can understand some of it. 45% better rendering or faster rendering, 2 to 3 times ray tracing, and the PSSR, the PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution Upscaling, that's potentially the proprietary AI upscaling that we have heard about previously, because the previous leaks about the fact that it was coming this year indicated that it was going to have some type of an AI upscaling solution. Now, apparently Insider Gaming was able to verify how long these dev kits had been in circulation. They said Insider Gaming, who has also shared documentation from the developer portal under the condition that it is not shared publicly or privately, can also confirm that dev kits have been available to first-party studios since September of 2023, third-party since January of 2024, and from spring 2024, test kits will also be available, which will be identical to the final product. So the specs are hitting the public because 3 months ago, dev kits started landing at third-party developers. Now, something Tom Henderson said would likely lead to the leaks happening. He said this, months ago. Now, this was obviously inviting lots of questions about the price, about the level of performance. Will we even get that level of performance from a console? Like, we hear 8K and we're like, are you serious, right? The average pre-built gaming PC that you could buy at like Best Buy or Amazon isn't really even targeting this level of performance. We're not seeing gaming rigs out here talking about 4K 60 or 8K. If you go shopping for a pre-built gaming PC, the price range is going to be anywhere from $800 to about $1,600, and then obviously you can go way higher than that if you want. So we could be looking at something below that price point, $600 or $700, able to tout performance that you just don't see really anywhere else. And if it hits holiday of this year, it could be something that's very appealing to the average consumer. Now, obviously, the more engaged gamers can build their own PCs, they can target higher performance, they can buy the brand new graphics cards when they come out. But even then, you're not going to be spending $600 or $700. You might spend that on a couple of pieces for your computer, right? Even those who build their computers in bargain hunt are going to have a very hard time getting something in this price range. Now, something I've always said is the average consumer is going to be drawn to the simplicity of a console, especially when the price point is so much lower than the PCs they might see when they're walking through Best Buy or if they're searching on Amazon. I remember helping my brother get a gaming PC, and they were quite a bit more expensive than just buying a console. And I remember that giving him pause. He was like, well, why don't I just get the boys a console, because it's just so much more expensive. Now, because we are seeing this huge spectrum of response to this announcement, I think that's related to it, right? PC gamers, Xbox gamers are like, they're about to have something that is not really seen in the market right now. Now, just yesterday, though, I've got to add a teeny bit more. I added this to my monologue just this morning. Just yesterday, Insider Gaming posted more specs and more info. So I'm going to quickly give you the high points from that, and he talks about the memory changes, and it says the PlayStation 5 Pro's system memory is more efficient than the standard console, so the bandwidth gain may increase by over 28%. Now, this should obviously be very useful. Now, on the CPU, it is the same CPU, but they're going to be running it in a high CPU frequency mode. More power is then allocated to the CPU, and it will downclock the GPU by about 1.5%, resulting in roughly 1% lower GPU performance. Now, keep in mind, this isn't saying 1% lower than the standard PS5, because the GPU stats are still listed as 45% faster rendering than the standard PS5, 2 to 3 times the ray tracing, and 33.5 teraflops, okay? The last thing Insider Gaming had to say about this is they said that it is also understood, this is them here quoting it, that as a means to make the PlayStation 5 Pro as competitive, that's a quote, that's not their phrasing, that's something that they've heard. They want to make the PS5 Pro as competitive as possible. It will have a detachable disk drive, which will be identical to the latest iteration of the standard PlayStation 5, and 1 terabyte of storage space. So that is literally everything that we know about this machine, okay? And the reactions, they've been all over the place, okay? So let's walk through some of the reactions that I've seen. So I put out a tweet just asking, what do you guys think about the PS5 Pro, and why is there so much negativity? Okay, because that tweet got way more views than I expected. It's like almost at 100,000 views. I'm just asking about the PS5 Pro and the negativity. Now, the first and most common response that I always see anytime this subject comes up is, this is so unnecessary. We've barely gotten any games for the PS5. I continue to see the second portion of that claim made. I continue to see people say, we haven't even really gotten any games for the PS5. Now, first, arguing against it being necessary or unnecessary, I just think is a strange way to categorize a mid-gen upgrade. It's completely optional for those who want the best, right? Like when a brand new graphics card comes out, no one's like, this is completely unnecessary. It's, well, if you want to upgrade, you can, or you can continue to use the GPU that you have now. This is not that different, right? We're 4 years into the life cycle of this console. How often are you upgrading your phone? How often can you upgrade your phone, right? Pretty much every year. Now, to counter much of the false narrative around this generation, I do want to speak to that, right? This idea that we haven't gotten games or we haven't gotten the performance that we were promised, I just think this is completely made up. PlayStation Studios have consistently delivered on the promises of higher resolution, higher frame rates, and no more loading screens. To pretend that Demon's Souls Remake, Returnal, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, The Burning Shores DLC, Gran Turismo 7, Spider-Man 2, to act like these games have not delivered amazing next-gen performances, I just think that that is dishonest. You don't have to like the games, but if you look at their performances and what they offer, from the quality to the resolution to the performance modes, it's just ludicrous. It's dishonest. You're not representing history accurately. I didn't even mention the Last of Us 1 remake or the Last of Us 2 remastered or Death Stranding and Ghost of Tsushima director's cuts. I've gotten 60 FPS, zero loading screen, beautiful looking next-gen experiences the entire time that the PlayStation 5 has been out. Even Helldivers 2, which is sort of taking the live service world by storm, it delivers a very great looking cinematic experience that I've not really seen before in a 4-player online co-op game. I've consistently remarked about the lighting specifically in Helldivers 2. So those who feel like they didn't really get any PS5 games yet, I'm not sure what you've been playing. I'm not sure what you were expecting. Now, I didn't even mention games like Final Fantasy or Resident Evil or Alan Wake. Like, these games have delivered stunning games this generation, and based on initial impressions, Stellar Blade is going to be another great-looking next-gen game this year. Now, I'll admit, Rise of the Ronin, not so much. We'll talk about that later with Kirk in a separate stream. So I don't agree with the insistence that we haven't gotten enough games or that the games have failed to deliver on the next-gen promises. This is usually moved by, or made by moving goalposts and acting like, well, because a game is cross-generationally supported, that it didn't deliver next-gen performance, next-gen graphics, or new next-gen features. This is just completely untrue. I believe folks are trying to paint with a broad brush every time a game comes out and it fails to hit 60 FPS or it has performance issues. They try to pretend that, yeah, this entire generation's been a disappointment. We're not getting 60 FPS. We're not getting good performance. Yeah, well, maybe if you don't have a PlayStation, that's true, but I haven't had any issue with any of the games I purchased on PS5, with the exception of Combat is great in Final Fantasy 16. When you leave it, it's not so much. That performance mode just needs an update. Why not update it to better versions of FSR? And then obviously Jedi Survivor. But outside of those instances, this generation has been very satisfying with respect to fidelity and performance from my perspective. You have to ignore a very long list of games that have delivered 60 FPS, good performance, great quality modes. You have to ignore all that to claim this generation just hasn't delivered. Now, on the same token as believing that the PS5 Pro is unnecessary, I saw somebody say, well, only 2 games are going to take advantage of the PS5 Pro. The PlayStation 5 is strong enough. Listen, I'm honestly glad that a lot of folks seem to think that the PS5 is perfectly suited for their needs. It means that they're satisfied. They're a customer that's happy with their PlayStation 5. It's going to make it a whole lot easier for folks like me to get a PS5 Pro when it comes out. Some folks attempted to answer my question about what's with all the negativity that we were seeing about the PS5 Pro, and they said Xbox fans and PC Master Race gamers are just jealous. It's certainly hard not to notice that the trend of hardcore PC guys and hardcore Xbox guys are kind of linking arm in arm to consistently speak negatively about anything that PlayStation does. They're strange bedfellows, but they are seemingly partners in this effort. I just don't understand why they care. If your PC is so great, who cares if PlayStation fans buy or want a stronger console? And if you're a hardcore Xbox fan, why do you care? Every screen's an Xbox, right? This is just another screen for consumers to play Xbox games on. Whenever a new GPU hits the market, I don't find myself caring to comment about why people buy it or why people spend money constantly upgrading their hardware, because it just doesn't concern me. I don't care to comment on how often people upgrade their phones. Like, how dare they do that? Why are you doing that? You're getting ripped off. It just doesn't concern me. It isn't in the gaming realm or the realm of concern that I operate in. So it just seems strange how preoccupied some folks are with what PlayStation does or what fans of PlayStation, tend to do. Really feeling like that stop having fun meme, if you've seen that, where somebody walks in the room and they're like, stop having fun. That just really feels like it's getting rooted into the gaming spaces lately, where, people are just angry that folks are having a good time or buying products that they like. Like, first it was Helldivers 2, and now it's the PS5 Pro. I guess we're not supposed to buy products or play games that we enjoy, which I think some have diagnosed this as jealousy. They said, listen, this isn't negativity, it's jealousy. Right? And I don't like to project emotional states onto other people, but as someone who was very disappointed with the Series X this generation, if it was my primary console, I would definitely feel a certain kind of way about how PlayStation is treating the console consumer versus how I have been treated, right? If that's where I primarily gamed, because my Series X hasn't gotten very much action at all since I bought it, I would be pretty irritated. If I was a hardcore PC guy, I just don't think I would be bothered. There was a time where I primarily played on PC. I was playing for Destiny 2 and Fortnite. I wanted 60 FPS, and I couldn't get that on the consoles at the time. It never bothered me that folks continued to prefer console. It didn't bother me that they preferred 30 FPS. Even today, there are people who aren't bothered by 30 FPS, and I just don't care. It's just a preference thing. Play where you want and spend your money how you want. I do have to point out, though, how much of the Xbox hardware narrative has changed. For a while, there was confidence that there would be a mid-gen refresh, and then there was the rumor of something coming out in 2026. Now this is all being decried as unnecessary and a cash grab and just a complete waste. Some are setting their sights on the next generation of hardware from Xbox as opposed to getting some kind of a mid-gen refresh. I would caution folks against thinking that there's going to be a high-end console competitor from Xbox in the future. The language about big technical leap could be anything, and the leaks from Xbox seem to point to a console cloud hybrid. As someone who likes to buy the latest hardware, whether it's the Nintendo Switch 2 or PS5 Pro or even latest Xbox, I think the hardware console market is going to look very different in 5 years. There will not be a traditional standoff between Xbox and Sony, and the Switch is just going to continue to do what it does with the Switch 2 that is likely landing in early 2025. So let me give you my thoughts on this, okay? First, I want to say, my previous coverage about the PS5 Pro being market disruptive, I didn't imagine it would be disruptive in the gaming community space and that people would get so invested in the conversation and that it would become so divisive. When the PS4 Pro dropped, I was not paying much attention to commentary, to complaints, or to criticisms from the gaming world, but it did launch without any titles specifically for it. We went back and looked. Like when the PS4 Pro landed, there were no games that were like specifically upgraded for it. And that is something that many have inquired about the PS5 Pro. Now, it's possible that's why we are seeing this gap from first-party studios. Like, there's no first-party studios launching a game this year, it seems, except for maybe Concord. They have been maybe potentially updating their games to harness the power of the PS5 Pro, because they've had the dev kits longer. So that's a potential theory I'm throwing out there as to why first-party studios are seemingly taking this year off, and then if a bunch of their games land next year and they're all optimized for the PS5 Pro, well, we'll have our answer. So why do I want a PS5 Pro? Well, it's fairly simple. I like having the latest and greatest as a content creator, but I would also want one as a gamer. Even if I was not a YouTuber, I would have gravitated toward PS5 this generation. And a new and updated PS5 that can give me better performance, I would be sold on that. But the mistake many are making is that they're assuming consumers who want a PS5 Pro are doing it out of dissatisfaction with the standard PlayStation 5. Well, no, it's quite the opposite. The PS5 did such a good job delivering on the promises of this gen that I trust to upgrade to the new one and that it will be worth it, which has caused many to ask about the standard PS5. Will it suddenly be an anchor or a problem? Will it suddenly be put into the back seat? Many have wrongly compared this situation to the Series S and the Series X situation. The massive difference is that the PlayStation 5 has delivered a solid baseline for next-gen games. All first-party games from PlayStation Studios have landed with fantastic quality modes and performance modes, and most of the third-party games have done the same. Games like Final Fantasy XVI and Jedi Survivor have their rust spots, but overall, the PS5 has proven itself to, in my opinion, be the best next-gen console for the last 4 years. And if this is the floor for the rest of the generation, then I'm not concerned at all. If games continue to come out and look like what we've gotten in Burning Shores or Spider-Man 2, I'm totally fine with that. I think that's a great ground for your performance, and then you can go up from there, right? As long as standard PlayStation 5 owners continue to get performance and fidelity from first-party studios that we've already seen the last 4 years, then I just don't see any issues here. And on that topic, many have expressed concern that GTA 6 will only get 60 FPS on the PS5 Pro, that both the Series X and the standard PS5 will have to be 30 FPS. Now, given the footage that we've seen so far in the scope of GTA 6, I definitely understand the concern, right? The idea that this game's going to struggle to get good performance on these consoles. Now, if Rockstar went so big and they went ambitious with GTA 6 and they have to cap the game at 30 FPS on PS5 and Series X, well, that's a choice that they made. Just like when Gotham Knights did it, when Redfall did it, when Plague Tale Requiem did it, when Starfield did it. Now, yes, Redfall and Plague Tale added 60 FPS modes later, but those were developer choices, not indictments of Xbox or PlayStation or the consoles themselves. Even Dragon's Dogma 2 is launching this week at 30 FPS on next-gen consoles. This has nothing to do with the PS5 Pro or the consoles. It has to do with the vision and the ambition of developers. If GTA 6 is optimized for the PS5 Pro and it runs the best there, I actually do think that will be a huge market advantage for PlayStation, which leads to the final question. What about the price? I see folks that are throwing around $600, some are throwing around $700. I believe it will likely land on the $600 price point, and I think the market will bear that. The early adopters, the folks that always want the latest tech, well, they're going to be the first in line. So to those who say it isn't necessary or that it would be better, you'd be better off buying a PC. Listen, thanks for getting out of the way and making it easier for the rest of us to buy one. Game where you want and buy what you want, and I will do the same. But that's just my take. What's yours? So let me give you my sort of thoughts and conclusions here. I use this to kind of transition to talking to the live audience. The first thing I want to say is I think the most interesting that came out of the PS5 marketing, as well as the PS5 Pro leaks, is how many consumers care about something that they claim that they don't care about. Why does it matter if current PlayStation 5 owners or people that want to get a PS5 end up getting a PS5 Pro? If your current gaming choices are so great and so satisfying, why obsess over what other gamers decide to do? If it makes it, listen, it makes no difference to me how often you upgrade your GPU. You can do it every year. It doesn't matter to me. It makes no difference to me if you prefer to play on Xbox or you love Game Pass. It doesn't matter to me. Now, I've had my own criticisms of what Game Pass will do to consumer culture and what it will do to the value of games as well as devaluing them, but I don't care if you as the consumer decide to do it. It's like, it makes perfectly good sense to go for a great deal with Game Pass. It makes perfectly good sense to buy a new GPU every year, because if that's your hobby and you love to have the greatest and the strongest, then go for it. That doesn't bother me one bit. The second thing I'll say is, I think the market disruption that I predicted is already happening. The fear is palpable. Commitments to ideology and brand loyalty continues to fold in on itself. Just a stronger PS5 leaks about a stronger PS5 coming to the market. That's enough to create tailspins and angry rants. And it's almost an exact mirror image of the PlayStation Portal and how it was treated. First, it's denied. All the leaks are fake, right? That's not real. Then, when it's officially announced, that's unnecessary. That's a waste. According to PlayStation, the PlayStation Portal has exceeded their projected demand consistently. Then the PS5 Pro went through the same cycle of denial and then decry. First, the leaks, there's no way that's real. There's not going to be a PS5 Pro. Well, now that we have very reliable information that it is real, well, it's decried as unnecessary, right? A cash grab. That's so stupid. I'm sure when it sells well, to the same degree that the PlayStation Portal sold well, there'll be creative, logical backflips to explain it all away. Corporate shills and dumb consumers are buying them. These are the phrases that, alleged pro gamers use. They just insult massive amounts of people who don't buy and behave the way that they do. That's very pro gamer. Maybe consumers just like brands and products that you don't. I don't try to understand the demand for products that I don't consume or buy. I don't waste my mental energy on that. I don't know why people constantly want to upgrade their PCs. I mean, I do, but I'm also kind of like, I don't know why you're doing that. That's your own choices. Maybe folks should just give that a try. Just don't waste mental energy worrying about brands and products that you don't consume or care about. My conclusion is this. I can't help but think that the continued emotional responses to gaming brands or announcements, it's rooted in something else. Deriving your identity or integrating your identity with a brand or integrating your identity with a mantra like PC Master Race, whatever that means, that leads to very strange behavior. It's like watching sports fans tear into each other, before and after tournaments and championship games. A lot of us are just there for the entertainment, right? We don't get in long diatribes and fights about sports teams or gaming products or the games that we like, which in my estimation, that's what gaming is supposed to be about. Entertainment and fun. But those are just my thoughts. Now it's time to hear your thoughts. And that's the show open. Happy Monday to you. Appreciate you guys being here. And that feels like a proper show open. Everything's looking a little bit better here on the YouTube end of things. If you haven't smashed the like button, do me a favor and do that. Let's set our sights on 200 likes. There's already almost 600 people here. And we had a great weekend. Now, we didn't do the public stream because my wife and I were both incredibly tired, but we still did the stream that we said we would do for all members. You guys went crazy. You gifted member. You became a member. You signed up. You got committed. That Friday night stream was a blast. We called it Ministry of Madam, and if you miss out on that, you can go back and watch that as a gifted member and as a paying member as well. PC Master Race means I'm playing right now, and you will be playing on the PS6 Pro. Recognize. No, it means what I'm playing right now, you will be playing on the PS6 Pro. Recognize. Yeah, and what's interesting, Zubair, is that when I'm playing Wolverine, I'll be playing what you'll be playing 2 years later. So, it's all a matter of what you prioritize, right? I mean, I'm playing Spider-Man 2 right now, and you're going to be playing it later, right? I mean, so it's just all a matter of what we prioritize. Is that not right? Thank you guys again for being here. I'm trying to keep it lighthearted, man. People are getting way too invested in this. It's like, why do you care? What does it matter? You know it's not going to be that good and it's not needed. Okay, I want to buy it anyway. Like, do that to the people lined up to buy an iPhone. Do that to the people that buy GPUs the first day they come out. Like, really, go give them a massive lecture on how they shouldn't, or on how the product is unnecessary. Like, what the frick, man? Who cares? What do you care for? A 2-spot from Rich Rod Lono getting gangsta on these fools. I'm not even getting gangsta. It's just such conventional, just simple wisdom of like, just what does it matter? Like, I couldn't believe how upset people were about this. It was like, I was like, I thought people would be excited. They'd be like, oh yeah, dude, we're going to get better performance. We're going to get better games. Like, this is so great. But I don't know, man. I feel like people are more interested in a brand that they don't like than the brands that they do like, I guess. And there was a 14. Ikagang did like a 14. I'm not sure what that mets out to in the US. Weren't devs complaining about 2 consoles to develop for? And Smiley with 26 months of VIP. Here's the thing, Ikagang. Developing for 2 different consoles is not the same as developing for a console that now has a stronger version. Because whatever they were building, whatever they were designing has a baseline, and now they're able to do more. Right? The difference, the conversation about building for one ecosystem being preferred by developers is not disrupted by a PS5 Pro, because the architecture is the same, and then they can harness more power. Also, according to the leaks that we've heard, they won't have to do a lot of extra work. This will be something that it sounds like there is this super sampling AI tech that will do some of the work for them. So you'll just get higher resolution or more frames, and the devs didn't have to go back and like completely restructure everything, rebuild everything, and bug test, something that the actual device is doing for them. Again, this is according to the leaks and according to the specs that tracks with me. It's like if you're doing some kind of super sampling or upsampling, the devs don't have to go back and redo a bunch of stuff. When you're building a game for this platform and that platform and then all the hardware configurations on PC, that requires more work. Developers are on record saying this in numerous locations and outlets and interviews. Ghost in the Garage Gaming says, love to see it. I made a post and don't know how many times I was called a shill and a corpo slave. Like, why does it matter what I spend my money on? Yeah, I know. Like, why are people... The pocket watching of today is just so common. Let's get our membership goal out here and get that going as well. I'll set a goal for you guys this week. I'll have to look and see where the memberships land. Thank you so much for 19 months. Otagon Ocelot says, I've been a fan of Sony since my Walkman in the mid-90s. Sony's core identity is creating electronic devices. It's what they've done since 1971. I had a Sony Walkman. I had a Sony Discman. I guess I was a pony back then. You know, I liked their stuff. Dalton says, really asking here, are these specs actually possible in a console? AK say it just sounds wild. If they can pull it off, good for them. Maybe it can encourage Xbox to beef up hardware next gen. I don't think Xbox is interested in a hardware fight. I don't think they're interested in spending the money and trying to get the raw materials to get into another hardware fight. I think their next console is going to be low cost for them, which makes it low risk and probably not a loss lead. Consoles are often a loss lead. I think it's going to be low cost for them. It's going to be like a cloud hybrid. 10% CPU upgrade, and it's aiming at 4K 60 and 8K 30. It's the most pointless console on the planet. I welcome you to not buy it. It'll make room for the people that want it, right? We were told that the PlayStation Portal was pointless, and I use it all the time, and I love it. It's been a great accessory to my gaming experience, both with my kids and my wife. Like, pointless for you doesn't mean it's pointless for everybody. You know, I genuinely think that people are looking at this so upside down. You know, it's like some people just want to get the absolute best. Some people want to get the absolute strongest. It's the same reason that people are like, As soon as there's a new GPU, as soon as there's a new CPU, as soon as there's better RAM, like people just upgrade, right? New monitors. Oh, I want a new monitor. New cameras, like new phones. This is just what we do with technology. It's not uncommon for there to just be front of the wave people that pay for a bump in performance or pay for a bump in power. It's the most common thing we see in the tech sector is consumers being willing to spend money on an upgrade. Like, it's so commonplace. It's just, it's decried as pointless and bad here for I don't know what reason. Check the chat link in live chat. Hendo has a new update on the PSSR Pentiment in this chat. Oh, to this chat. Oh, this is the spectral resolution thing. Yeah, let's check this out. Tommy Hendy, man, give that man his flowers. This guy got so much hate and grief over the PlayStation, the Q Lite, which turned into the PS Portal. Everybody said it was fake. Everybody said it was nothing. And then they said the same thing about the PS5 Pro. So, Tom Henderson deserves a little bit of credit here, folks. You know, he clearly has sources. Eugene says, I'm tired of people comparing the specs of a modular system to an optimized and proprietary built piece of hardware. It's exhausting. Yeah, people that seem to know a whole lot about tech don't seem to understand the difference between upgrading something modularly and having something that is a unified ecosystem that has been tuned and optimized to work within that hardware spectrum. It's like, I don't know. I saw so much, and it's like, listen, man, I'm not an expert, but I feel like a lot of these people are absolutely making false equivalencies and bad comparisons. So, okay, so this is information from Insider Gaming about the PSSR, which this is a terrible abbreviation, right? Pisser. Anyway, the PlayStation's new Spectral Super Resolution, which will first be integrated into the PlayStation 5 Pro, and it's internally aiming for 4K 120 FPS, 8K 60 console gaming, Insider Gaming has learned. Now, the news comes from the weeks. Okay, currently here, PSSR works on SKD 9.00 and the PlayStation 5 Pro to bring 4K resolutions. Okay, they've also revealed more specifications outlined in the documents. Oh, I already read this. Didn't I? Oh, no, hang on. Outlined in documents provided at Insider Gaming under the condition that they are not made public, PlayStation's ambitions with PSSR is to achieve 4K 120 and 8K 60. Whilst these are not the targets for the PS5 Pro due to hardware limitations, it is the internal goal for PSSR in future console interactions. The PlayStation 5 Pro PSSR currently supports 3840 by 2160 and is currently aiming at 4K 60 and 8K 30, okay? But it's unclear if those internal milestones can be passed. Okay, so this is what we're going to be getting, 4K 60, 8K 30, which I'm totally fine with, by the way. This is all that's ever mattered to me. Give me 60. I like 1440 60, so if you can give me 4K 60, I'm totally fine. PSSR memory requirements is roughly 250 meg, 180 meg from the PSML library, and 64 meg from the game. 2 case studies of 2 unnamed first-party games include Game 1. Target image quality close to fidelity mode with performance mode, okay? So 1080 60 fidelity mode, 1830. That's the standard PlayStation, okay? PS5 Pro is getting 1440 60 when they were able to utilize PSSR. So PSSR took performance mode up from 1080 60 to 1440 60, which this is, again, I'm totally fine with this. This is what I think is the sweet spot anyway for console gaming. I think the sweet spot for console gaming is 1440 60. Like, if you target that and can hit that, I'm happy. It's going to look great. Most people do not expect 4K 60. I think that's an absurd expectation. You know, 4K 60 is... You're just asking a lot, okay? Now, here's Game 2. Standard PlayStation 5 achieved 60 FPS without ray tracing, and the PlayStation 5 Pro achieved 60 FPS with ray tracing. Again, this is a win for people that want 60. Right? And we lose all those things whenever we turn on 60. We lose the higher resolution. We lose the ray tracing. Okay? So that's some new information specifically about the PSSR that they're going to be leveraging in the PlayStation 5 Pro. And I think it sounds fine. And again, if you read that and you think that's not a big enough bump for me, I'm happy with the PS5. That's great. That means you already have a product you're satisfied with. Okay? Yeah, we're currently at 2330 on the member count. So let's shoot for 2,500 again this week, and we'll do a community game night this week. That's what we'll do. I think it's time for community game night. On the 22nd, Oh no, Madam and I are going to be playing Princess Peach this week on Friday night, and then we'll do community game night on the 29th, which we're supposed to do community game night once a month, but we've already done it once, so that'll be number 2. So, a 5 spot from Wired Rope. More Law is Dead reported PS5 Pro like 2 years ago, and he also broke the PSSR. Moore's Law is Dead. I do not have a long-standing memory of them. I just know that that channel doesn't get trusted a lot because they've gotten a lot of things incorrect. So it's sometimes I feel like channels throw a lot of leaks at the wall, and then when a couple stick, they're like, yeah, see, and it's like, come on, man. Like, they got this one right, sure. Props to them. They broke this, and Insider Gaming came behind and said, we verified all of this is accurate. It also seems like Moore's Law is Dead beat everybody else by like a day, if I'm honest. It sounds to me like they beat everybody by like a day. They put out their video by like, what, 24 to 48 hours before Hendy and everybody else had the info required to corroborate what they were saying. Welcome back, Bolton Gaming. I love how mad people are at the PS5 Pro. You got a Whopper with cheese and bacon, you idiot. You could have just gotten a Whopper with cheese. It's a cash grab. Besides, Wendy's is better. Lono just eats his sandwich. That's right. That's why. What did Ghost say about a... I'm on the list for a Lamborghini Revuelto. Have yet to hear someone say that was a waste. Let me be hyped for the PS5 Pro and all the butthurt salty bots. Mad man. Well, enjoy your Lamborghini, Ghost in the Garage, and enjoy your PS5 Pro. Enjoy both. It took Tom Henderson for me to want to cover this. Because I had people coming to me, and they're like, yo, the specs for the PS5 Pro dropped. And I'm like, okay, where? And they're like, Moore's Law is dead. And I was like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. No shade. I'm going to wait. They've misfired on stuff before. I'm not running that. There it is. Han shot first, and so did you. Joker Quinn says, let's get started. We're at 2330. We're at 2330. Let's set our sights on 2500. That's the goal for the week, guys. Appreciate you. And JC with a second gifted member. Welcome on in, anybody who just got a gifted member. I was thinking the same thing as far as PlayStation first party this year not putting out games because of the Pro. Yeah, I mean, that's my theory, right? Is that it would make sense because according to the timeline, in September of last year, first party devs got the dev kit for the PlayStation 5 Pro. And all of a sudden, we learn at the end of last year that PlayStation delayed a bunch of games internally. They pushed a bunch of games back, and we're like, well, that's kind of weird. And then we get into 2024, and people point out, and they notice, they're like, there's no first-party games coming from PlayStation. Like, what's going on? Well, we have it on good authority that the Ghost of Tsushima sequel will be announced in the summer. Maybe something else. And maybe they push themselves back because they're like, oh, now that the Pro dev kits are available, let's kind of push the timeline back a little bit. Let's bake in some updates here. Let's make the games tap into this. Right? Like, that makes sense to me. Ghost in the Garage Game says, I'm still waiting for you to come and get some laps in the 911 or the Accelerator Hurricane. Hey man, listen, Ghost, I'll come chill, bro. I'll just come chill on your porch and just watch a sunset and have some bourbon. Like, I don't even need to race in a car. I'm not a car guy, but you know, you want to let a man, take some laps. I'll do it. Let's set it up. Let's set it up. I could see Sony making it only available on PlayStation Direct for a little while before releasing it to retailers to maybe try and stop the scalpers. I mean, that's obviously the biggest consideration is the scalpers because there'll be a limit in how many that they make, and then we're all going to be sitting around here grumpy if we can't get one. Shooter Forever with 7 months as a member. All that hype for a GPU upgrade and better upscaling just to be bottlenecked in the CPU. Keep expectations within reason. Enjoy what you want. I mean, I think people are jumping to conclusions on that too with the CPU because everything they're touting is being thrown at the GPU. So, like, I get what you're saying. You're like, well, the CPU. Okay, but they're touting boosts in graphics that are specifically tied to the GPU. So, if you think they did all this and they're like, oops, a daisy, we forgot about the CPU, I find that to be unlikely. that they're like, listen, we're going to give you 45% faster rendering and 2 to 3 times on the ray tracing. And someone's like, the CPU though. And they're like, oops, we forgot about the CPU. PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution is aiming for 4K 120 and 8K 60. How about that CPU though? Right, like the fact that people think that like, oh, the CPU is going to bottleneck it all, it's like, okay. I mean, maybe they're just completely misunderstanding how their own technology works. Cerny doesn't abide bottlenecks. Yeah, like, listen, I trust Mark Cerny. I do. Like, he went to developers, and they gave developers what they needed with the PS5, and we've gotten great games because of it. We've heard from developers that they like building for the PS5. I think he did the same thing with the Pro. I think he went to the devs, and they were like, man, we need to be able to do more ray tracing, dude. Like, ray tracing makes our job so much easier, and ray tracing is hugely untapped on consoles right now. Digital Foundry has indicated that like not even the full suite of ray tracing is currently being used on the consoles. You know, so just making sure the camera angle's right. I had to write a lot of that monologue this morning. We had to host our community group yesterday, and so I had to clean, not just in here. I had to clean. You know, I was very busy. It was a little bit of a stressful afternoon, but it ended up being a great evening. It really, really did. If you guys ever play Mad Gab with people, if English isn't their first language, they're amazing to play with because they pronounce everything so firmly that you hear it like right away. Like, we tend to roll words together because it's our native language. Like, we just speak English. So if you have friends and they speak with like a very strong accent, like if they're not, you know, English is not their first language, play Mad Gab with them. I'm telling you, it's a blast. You need to do it for your own joy and your own mirth. It's so much fun. I feel like these devs are focused more on graphics than performance. I mean, I haven't seen evidence of that. I have not seen evidence of anybody who has stressed graphics over performance, except for maybe Final Fantasy 16. They went for these very big, you know, graphically impressive environments and scenes and stuff, and then they were like, yeah, we're not really worried about the performance mode. You know, I also think people need to remember that a lot of the boost in performance is going to be coming from AI upscaling, or whatever this technology upscaling is. So bottlenecking isn't going to be as big of a concern there if you have dedicated hardware doing the upscaling. A 5-spot from P-Dub H-Town. People still doubting the wizardry of Cerny is crazy. This man clearly knows what he's doing. The outcries are mainly from fanboys and detractors. Excuse me. Eugene says, of course, Zubair. But again, people are taking what they know or think they know about modular performance and are ignorantly applying it to proprietary hardware. I don't know enough to speak to that, Eugene, but I think to summarize it quite simply, when you modularly put together a PC and when you have proprietary hardware that has been literally fine-tuned to hum, there's a giant difference there. So people are like, oh, but the CPU is going to be a bottleneck. And it's like, it might be a bottleneck when you're doing something modularly over here and you're purely just adding pieces and parts to get more raw power. But you can get more power out of an optimized piece of proprietary hardware because everything has been tuned to work together. It's not like a random smattering of parts that you would end up when you build your own PC. Like, your motherboard and mine are different, your memory and mine are different, but we have the same GPU and we have the same CPU. Well, we might get differences in performance. Now, they might not be vast, but there's often times when you're doing benchmarks, it's like, well, this is the range you're going to land in. You're not going to get the exact same results because unless you have identical hardware, because you're going to have minor differences here and there. And I remember back when, and this is a very long time ago, when you had to upgrade, I had to upgrade to a quad-core processor and I didn't want to. I remember even back then, when I started researching it, there were different motherboards that interacted with the quad-core processors better or something. And again, I was very layman back then. I could order the parts, put them together, and then boot it and install Windows. Like, that was how much I knew. I knew that, like, stronger was better, and I knew where the pieces went, okay? And I remember even back then when I was doing a little bit of research, there were people leaving reviews on Newegg, and they were talking about which motherboards were interacting with certain quad cores better or something. And I mean, that was a long time ago. I don't know if it's that extreme now. Like one motherboard versus another is significantly better. I'm out of that realm. But it makes sense to my brain that you doing a modular upgrade to your PC might not net as much as the same hardware over here if it's completely optimized as a piece of proprietary hardware. It's not just in the hardware, it's also in developer ability to learn and to optimize for it. Right, because they can learn tricks within the proprietary hardware. They're like, oh, so because this is how everything is handled in the pipeline, we can do A, B, and C, and we can get better results. Well, you can't do that when you go over into a world where all the pipelines and all the hardware is different. But when it's just one piece of hardware, you can say, oh, well, this is how we handle textures, and this is how we handle lighting, and this is how we handle the ray tracing, and the AI upscaling can shoulder some of this and shoulder some of that, so we can lighten the load on resolution. Like, there's all these things you're going to be able to figure out, which will net a better optimized, better performing game. I said this back when the news about the PS5 Pro first broke. I said this could be, I believe it will be, market disruptive. I believe developers will say, I want to build for that system. If their market saturation is good, which it is, and if it continues to be good, and you can build a game for that hardware ecosystem, devs will be drawn to that. Devs will say that's where I want to build my game. They've got a larger consumer base. Their consumer base likes to buy games at full price, and the development is optimized. It sounds great to me. It sounds like a winning combination. If the Switch has taught me anything, it's that even a weaker console can give a great experience. I know you doubt it, but as an Xbox guy, I hope these leaks encourage Xbox to step it up. Here's the problem, though, and I mean this with love in my heart. You Xbox guys have got to let go of that. Xbox has told you in black and white they have zero concern with competing with PlayStation's hardware. They don't care. They don't. Like, I love y'all, but you have got to let that go. They don't care about that anymore. It's not in their business strategy. They've made that perfectly clear. They will not come to market and be like, oh yeah, we're going to try and compete with the Pro. Oh yeah, we're going to try and compete with the PS6. Their angle, it's a totally different market approach. They're not trying to appeal to the power narrative consumers. Yo, good morning, feed. I'll be honest with you. There's not enough of us in the market. There aren't. Your early adopter, I want the best performance console user? Oh, come on. We're not big enough. There's not enough of us for Xbox to be like, oh, that's prime real estate. We should really compete for those consumers. No, they're setting their sights on cloud, mobile, ecosystem, and publishing. They don't give a rip about trying to win the power narrative. They abandoned the power narrative this generation. They went from talking about Project Scarlet to launching more Series S's. Like, they've completely pivoted away from that fight. So, and that's just, I think that's literally just market analysis. That's not hate. That's not me being negative. That's just looking at the market and saying what these companies are doing. I totally get that. I think by they don't care about hardware sales. I think they might still try to have a high-end console. Maybe not as high-end as the PS5, though. Yo, good morning, Hellfire. What did Derek say? Exactly. You have one driver that's funky and your Beast Machine PC will poop out on a game. That doesn't happen on a console. The difference between PC builds can get exponential. Next-gen AMD, says Zubair, is not competing with the 5090 or the 5080 class card. They're just giving NVIDIA the top of the market, and they're going to fight for the middle where they win, like Xbox. Right. Like, yeah, I can't imagine fighting over that. Like, top-end PC purchases. NVIDIA came all the way from, like last place to just absolutely dominating the market. I saw a very quick analysis of where they were. It was like one of those cool infographics that animates, and they were like way down here, up, down, and they just took off, and it was like, what? The NVIDIA just really like a case of just, you know, staying in the fight and coming from behind. Pause. And then they got the Series S. Well, they make a Series S X Pro. Yeah, Jez, I don't get the impression, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't get the impression that the Xbox guys are holding out for a mid-gen refresh. I think they're doing the same thing they're doing with exclusives. They're calling it bad. PlayStation's doing exclusives. Exclusives are bad. Xbox isn't doing exclusives anymore. PlayStation's doing a mid-gen refresh. That's bad. Xbox isn't doing mid-gen refreshes anymore. They're just stepping in line with whatever the new marketing is. Because there was all this like hullabaloo about the fact that there was going to be a mid-gen refresh from Xbox, and now it's like, no, those are dumb. Oh, okay. Those are cash grab. Oh, okay. Good job. Thank you, Trill. I'm learning. NVIDIA has so much mind share that AMD can't just match to win. If they match, they lose due to the mind share. I think the console space has the same kind of thing happening. I think that's well stated, Zubair. I think that's well stated. I think Xbox came to that realization, and they said, listen, our path is different. Our path is not through high-end hardware. Our path is not through... Because if you think about the fact that they would be losing money on those consoles, loss leads have to be justified. So what's the justification for a loss lead on there? Let's say there's a PS6 and there's an Xbox. We'll just call it the Xbox. Just for the sake of conversation, I don't want to like confuse it and make it sound like something else is already out. We'll call it the Xbox Cube. And the Xbox Cube is just this cube, and it's super strong. It's like a PC, basically, right? And they're trying to compete with the PlayStation 6, okay? And the loss lead on that, people are griping about the fact that, like, the PlayStation 5 price hasn't gone down. They can't. Cost of production hasn't tapered down like it typically does. They've had struggles with production, with fluctuation of the yen, fluctuation of global currencies. So the PlayStation 5 price isn't going to come down. And it's because they're quite literally protecting themselves from further losses. So if an Xbox Cube came out to compete with the PS6 and it was a loss lead, why then would they be willing to do that? You've got to come up with a reason. What's the loss lead for? I think in their mind, it's easier to get people into the Game Pass ecosystem or whatever cloud ecosystem they're building. I think to them, it's easier to do that without a high-end expensive purchase. The Series S kind of proves this, does it not? That, you know, more... Now, people will say, well, they made more of them and that's why more of them sold, but they seem to be in better demand as well. At least in the early stages, they seem to sell faster. Why? Well, it's a lower price point. That's a common practice, right? Moms and dads and grandmas are going to go into Target and they're going to see the cheaper Xbox and they're going to buy the cheaper Xbox. Because now they have more money to like buy a controller or buy games. Light X with the 5 spot. Excuse me. Why do YouTubers complain about price when they pay thousands for new graphics cards? People need to wait to see how devs implement regarding spec. Well, I mean, I'd always be interested in the price complaints. I would always be interested to see how much is someone spending annually or biannually on their phone. How much is somebody spending annually or biannually on hardware for their PC? And at the end of, let's say, an 8-year period. So in an 8-year period, I've purchased a PlayStation 5, a PSVR 2, a PlayStation Portal, a DualSense Edge, and then a PlayStation 5 Pro. You know, you add all that money up, and if you compare that to what somebody spends upgrading their phone in that 8-year period, or somebody who's consistently upgrading their PC in an 8-year period, I don't think that I'm out of step with what other people do within the tech realm. I don't. I don't think I'm out of step. I think I'm spending similar amounts of money. Like, you take an 8-year slice of the PC Master Race guys and what they spend on hardware and upgrades, okay? And what somebody who's really into always having the latest and greatest new phone. And then me buying a PlayStation 5, a VR2, a Portal, a DualSense Edge, and a PS5 Pro in an 8-year period. I don't think I'm out of step. I don't think I'm doing anything abnormal. We're all doing the same thing. We've entered into an ecosystem that we like, and we put money into it when new stuff comes out. iPhone people do it. PlayStation people do it. PC people do it. It doesn't seem to be strange to me. You're making far too much sense. You just keep basing your ideas on facts that's not supposed to fly on YouTube. The mid-gen refresh this time around is to correct the marketing of the promise of this gen. That's not true at all. PlayStation 5, that's another false narrative. I demolished that in the show open. That's in tatters on the ground. That is absolutely false. I have gotten the performance and fidelity promises this generation that I was given. I've got higher frames per second. I've got higher resolution. I have virtually no loading screens. Every single first-party PlayStation game that has come out this gen, delivered on what I expected. With the exception, I kind of count Final Fantasy 16 as like, it's like first-party in disguise, okay? Final Fantasy 16 is like the one exception where I'm like, yeah, they didn't deliver on their promises. They promised that they were going to like show off the power of the PlayStation and it was going to be this amazing spectacle, and it looks like cheeks when you're not in combat. Like, that's the one game I'll give you. Every other game, whether it's Demon's Souls Remake or Returnal or Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart or God of War Ragnarok or Gran Turismo 7 or Horizon Forbidden West or the Burning Shores DLC or Spider-Man 2, they have delivered on the promises of this gen. I got what I expected. To pretend that that hasn't happened, it's like, look, just because Xbox games came out at 30 FPS or we've had third-party games coming out with performance problems doesn't mean that this generation didn't deliver. Like, that's just bogus. It's absolutely bogus that, like, well, we need the PS5 Pro to deliver on the promises. I was never promised 4K 60. I was never promised 4K 60. Find me any marketing that ever promised 4K 60. Well, I mean, except for Xbox, they obviously did. They made promises about 4K 60. They made promises about standard output being 60 and up to 120. They made promises about native 4K in videos that went private on their YouTube channel. But there's no marketing from PlayStation that said you're going to get 4K 60 or 8K 30. We were never promised that. We were promised higher resolutions, up to 4K. We were promised better frames per second, up to 120. There are some games that have delivered 120. Games I see, you get 4K but no 60 FPS. That was never a promise. I never, ever went into this generation expecting 4K 60. That was not an expectation. Anybody who understood computer hardware at the time knew that wasn't going to happen. 4 years ago, 4K 60 was not a thought. Nobody was thinking they were going to get that. On the PS5 box, it says 8K, 4K, and 120. Yes, because it's capable of all of those things. That doesn't say I'm going to get 4K 120. That doesn't say I'm going to get 4K 60. It's a box. It's a piece of hardware capable of that output. Xbox did the same thing. It put on the box what it's capable of outputting. That's normal for hardware to do. I completely disagree with that. There was never marketing that made me think I was going to be getting 4K 60 games. I did not walk into this gen thinking that. Some folks probably understandably confuse these things as happening simultaneously, because they don't understand how hardware is marked. TVs are marked the same way. It's just because they're capable of doing that. So if you go and buy a television that has that on it, like 8K, 4K, or whatever, are you going to get angry when most of the programming that you watch isn't 8K and 4K? Well, that would be silly, right? The TV is simply telling you what it's capable of. It's capable of that output. I never watched a commercial. I never watched a showcase. I never watched a trailer. I never read a blog that was like, you're going to get 4K 60 games. And it's like, well, huh? Gran Turismo 7 gives me 4K 60 and 4K up to 120. Yeah, I mean, there are games that can do it because the box is capable of that output. But we were never told, like, oh yeah, you're going to get games at this. There was never a trailer for Demon's Souls Remake or Returnal or Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart or Gran Turismo 7. Like, none of those trailers were like putting that... Well, maybe Gran Turismo 7 might have said something about it. I wasn't a car guy, so I didn't watch a lot of their stuff. People being disingenuous. They know 8K was never a promise. They just want to crap on PS5. Right. The idea that, well, we need the PlayStation 5 Pro to make good on the promises of the PlayStation 5. Listen, man, I was promised games with higher resolution and higher frames per second and virtually no loading screens. And that's what I got. You want to run to a box and act like because the box says 8K or 4K 120 or HDR, it is simply saying that those are possible outputs of the device. It's not saying, oh, all your games are going to be at this. That's nonsensical to begin with, because 8K is right next to 4K 120, which doesn't even make any sense. It's listing possible outputs, and there are some things that have delivered on it, and most have not. Most games are landing in the 4K 30, 1440, 60 range, which is completely acceptable given the upgrade from last gen. Like, go to last gen, go get your Xbox Ones and your PlayStation 4s and play games there, and then come play here. Like these people that are like, well, Horizon Forbidden West is cross-generationally supported. Sure, go play it on your PlayStation 4, and then go play it on your PlayStation 5. Go play Burning Shores on your PlayStation 5 and tell me that, like, no, they didn't make good on the promises of next gen. It's complete, utter nonsense, propagated by people who didn't even buy the product. They're sitting from the sidelines saying, well, yeah, the product didn't deliver, so now they got to do this PS5 Pro. Do you own one? Do you? Because if you own one and you've played the games, are you seriously thinking in your mind, I'm not getting next gen because I'm not getting 8K, I'm not getting 4K 120. Are you honestly coming to these conclusions? No, you're just driving a narrative. These are not conclusions that you've arrived to because of your own personal conviction or experience, or because of your own fact-finding, or just objective analysis of what happened. No, it's just a narrative. It's just a false narrative, and it's tiring. It's like, I think the narrative is tired. It's just a tired narrative. It's like, you're really going to stand in front of all of the games that came out and say, we didn't get what we were promised. Like, we didn't get what we were promised. No games delivered 8K. There's like one 8K game. All it's saying is that the device is 8K capable. They never said we were going to get 8K games. You will not find a PlayStation blog or trailer or tweet or commercial or video that ever told us we were going to get 8K games. It doesn't exist. It's on the box because it's an 8K capable box, because they're going to be, I don't even know, are there 8K capable TVs right now? Like there's like one or two or something. Most people don't even have 8K televisions. If a person was to watch an 8K video on the YouTube app on their PS5, the PS5 would be able to display it, so long as your TV can also support 8K. That's what people get confused about. I think partly because the box is also a source for your TV. Who has 8K? That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not a market demand. It wasn't a market demand, and it wasn't a marketing point, because who's that going to speak to? Who are you marketing to? You're like, you're going to get 8K games, and people are like, I just opened my 4K television. What are you talking about? People would not have responded well to a strong marketing push from PlayStation about 8K. They wouldn't have. They would have said, are you kidding me? I just bought a 4K television. You complain about Xbox not fulfilling a promise, but their games run at 4K 120. No. There's a stark difference, Erodimus, between the box of PlayStation having like 8K and 4K and me playing every single game that PlayStation has developed. I can play at a quality 4K ray tracing mode or a performance 60 FPS mode. Xbox didn't even do that. You want to talk about not making good on a promise, and you want to give PlayStation grief about 8K? How bad is Xbox then? Seriously, make the comparison. So this is the claim. Let's really imagine we're looking at a ladder, and this ladder represents how high performance can be. And you're claiming that we didn't get the promises this gen, and that's why the PS5 Pro has to come out. We didn't get 8K and 4K 120. We just got 4K 30 ray tracing modes and 1440 60 modes on the PlayStation. So now we're here on the ladder. Well, where's Xbox? Where is it? Oh, it's right here. Redfall 30, Starfield 30. Forza Motorsport with bugs and glitches and missing features. So you want to talk about not making good on promises? Xbox had to set their own marketing video to private on YouTube, because they literally say things in the video that aren't true about the Series S. So the idea that like PlayStation has committed some kind of faux pas by not delivering 8K and 4K 120, Xbox can't even deliver 60 FPS games from their first-party studios. Like, and there's been a complete lack of first-party next-gen games from Xbox in the 4 years that the consoles have been out. It's not even about the quality, it's also about the cadence. Where are all the first-party next-gen titles? So this idea that the PlayStation 5 Pro is necessary because the PS5 didn't make good on its promises, it's propagated by folks on that side of the aisle, and it's completely and utterly bogus. It's not true. Forza Horizon 5, Motorsport, and Redfall run at 4K 60. Okay, well, Redfall had to be updated later, so you want to talk about a game that launched incomplete and was trash and has terrible scores. Motorsport, same deal, incomplete trash with terrible scores, so bad they're not even using it in competitive racing sports events, and it looks like garbage. Any analysis will tell you there's older games that look better than Forza Motorsport. So, Forza Horizon 5, congratulations. You got one game you can tout as making good on the Xbox Series X promises. But you want to worry about PlayStation games not hitting 8K. Don't you see how ludicrous that is? Like, you're going to tout Redfall and Motorsport? Those games are literal refuse on the ground. Terrible scores, terrible user reception. But the box of PlayStation says 8K. Like, it's just delusional, bro. It's delusional. And the narrative, thank you, Joker Quinn, for another gifted member. Sorry, I didn't shout that out. 3 gifted members on the day. Guys, we're at like 2,300 members on the week. We're aiming for 2,500. We will do a community game night at the end of the month. We hit 2,500 this week. Motorsport won awards. From who? From who? Xbox? What'd they win an award for, Erodimus? And again, the point is, if you're looking at this generation and you're concluding that no, they didn't make good on their promises and they need the Pro to make good on their promises, you're quite literally a liar. You're not telling the truth. The games that have been delivered have delivered on the promises that they made. Higher resolution, higher frames per second, virtually no loading screens, things like ray tracing. All of those things. We got all those things. We got all of those things. And you want to fixate on 8K, and then you want to drag me down into Red Herringville of like, well, if we actually compare who broke promises, like, then one is way worse than the other. Like, what are we even talking about here? I can get over not getting 8K games. Why? I never expected to get them. I can't get over getting 30 FPS games because I was promised standard 60 up to 120. I said both consoles didn't fulfill on their promises so far. So who's in a worse state? Who's in a worse state, though? Who has more games hitting 60? Who has more games hitting 4K ray tracing modes? Who has more first-party next-gen titles? Who? Like, if you're actually going to make comparisons and talk about like who hasn't made good on their promises, I can get over not getting 8K. I can get over not getting 4K 60 and 4K 120 because I was never promised that. I can't get over the lack of next-gen titles. I can't get over not getting 30 FPS. I got to thank some gifteds here. A 5 bomb from Parasito, and Lord Horg gifts a member and takes us to 9. And Kraos comes in with the 20 bomb and takes us all the way to 29. And that rolls us over. That's Agent of Chaos work. I now owe you guys 5 gifted members. Thank you so much, Kraos. I can't see chat. I gotta wait. The gifting's taking a second. They can put 3 games out, 20 hitting 30 FPS, and is still 60 FPS standard. I'm not sure what you're saying, Shooter Forever. I'd see no reason as a consumer. I don't think these consumers are real, by the way. I don't. I think they say these things because they hear them, and so then they just parrot them. I don't think anybody genuinely believes, like, at least not in a quantifiable number. I don't think there's a quantifiable amount of consumers who bought a PlayStation 5 and is like, yeah, I didn't get what I was promised. Yeah, Demon's Souls Remake, Returnal, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, God of War Ragnarok, Gran Turismo 7, Horizon Forbidden West, The Burning Shores DLC, and Spider-Man 2. Yeah, they just didn't deliver. Those games just aren't very good. They're not graphically strong. No, there's no genuine consumer coming to that conclusion. I just refuse to believe that. These are people just saying things to say them because they heard them said. It's like, how do we spin a negative on an upgrade, right? How? Well, let's say that it's unnecessary. Let's say that the people that wanted are corporate shills. Let's say that, well, the PlayStation 5 didn't deliver on its promises, so they need a mid-gen refresh to fix it. Like, okay, these are literally just things that are made up to generate clicks. It's not genuine. It's not real. It's not a real viewpoint. It's concocted in a lab somewhere to make people feel better and to generate this. Well, here we go. We're gonna run this narrative. It's like, why would you care? Like, do we do that with phones? We're like, well, there's a phone upgrade coming, so last phone must have sucked. There's a GPU upgrade coming out. Previous GPU must have been trash. Yeah, there's also the Ghost and the Death Stranding director's cuts. They got upgraded. They run at next-gen fidelity and performance. Helldivers and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Like, just a monsoon of great games. Great performance. Like, there's almost no blemishes this generation if you have a PlayStation 5. There's, like, none. There's Jedi Survivor, which they fixed, and it still has issues. And then there's Final Fantasy 16 performance mode. If you play Final Fantasy 16 in quality mode, which lots of people do, there's virtually no issues. The issues in Final Fantasy 16 are only in performance mode outside of combat. So, like, those are your 2 blemishes. You can try and run some kind of narrative, some kind of, like, pattern of behavior, and a single from Skatinator taking us to 30, he's tempting somebody to drop a 20 bomb. Personally, I was disappointed with my PS5. I got 0 8K content on it. The box said 8K. I'm only getting 4K content on my 4K TV. Sony lied. That's right. Yeah. TLU 1 remake, TLU 2 remaster, all delivering next-gen performance. A $2 tip from Rich Rod. He keeps bringing up 4K 120 360 games. And a 20 bomb from Kraos. This guy has been insanely generous lately, and he takes us all the way to 50, holding the members on his back today. My man Kraos. If you guys get a gifted member, you are now part of an amazing community. If you like to play Helldivers, if you like to play games, man, get in the Discord. Do me a favor, guys. Smash that like button. Get us to 300 likes. Eugene says, I've played nothing but great games for 4 years at good performance and resolutions. People can kick rocks. That's what I'm saying. I genuinely don't understand, like, what... We do this with everything. You're just not watching those spaces. The last gen of graphics cards all apparently have stopped working and are trash now. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm not paying attention to these other products, so I don't see the hilarity and the false narratives and the silliness, right? All right, here's the 5 that I owe you guys because we just hit 50 members. You know what I'm saying, Zubair? You know, maybe I'm only seeing it in gaming, and I'm like, why are people being this way? Are you playing Helldivers 2? Yeah, I've got like 73, 74 hours in Helldivers 2. I'm loving that game. I've played it a bunch. It's the most I've played a game in a long time. Most of the games I played last year, I completed them, which means you get to around, 15 to 20 hours, and then you're done. That's the most I've played a single game in a long, long time. It's over 70 hours in Helldivers 2. I gag every time you say that you have a 2080 Ti. WGC says PSSR is the most interesting thing in this. It sounds like Sony is tired of waiting for AMD to fix FSR. Well, what's really interesting about that is that AMD says they're launching AI upscaling this year. Right? So, did they help? Did PlayStation and AMD work together? Like, I don't know. You still playing Helldivers 2 on baby mode? Yes, because if I'm not streaming, I'm playing with my wife. And I'm not trying to sweat at the harder difficulties. I'm just not interested in that. My wife and I chill. We get some models, Lono, you forgot my single gifted. Got 2 in a row now and 1 to do by part. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for the 6 spot. I am so sorry. How did I not see that? Oh, I see it. It was after Lord Horg. I didn't see it because I gifted 5 and it covers the screen, so I couldn't see the fact that you did it. You said you've done 2 today. I only see the 1. Here, I'll bump the line to 51. I'm going to give you Agents of Chaos, all right? You claim Agents of Chaos. I'm so sorry about that. Whenever I go to gift members, it covers my entire screen of chat. It's like a big white screen with like a spinner. FSR isn't broken. FSR is limited because it doesn't use hardware upscaling. It's the hardware that is the jump. If AMD starts adding hardware cores to FSR 4, the quality will jump. AMD chooses compatibility over quality. It might be a version of PSSR. Remember, Cerny said that they were working with AMD, and you'll know if they look up their plans. Right, like I could see them working together specifically, on this. I could see it. I could see AMD and Sony working together and figuring out a way, like, how do we figure out this AI upscaling thing? So, generally speaking, this could be one of those times where it's not coming from AMD, but AMD maybe learned or benefited from co-opting the work or ping-ponging back and forth with PlayStation. I don't know. The PS5 Pro is apparently RDNA 4 based. Would that mean FSR 4? Headkiller, good to see you. I wish Sony stops dealing with VR and focus on improving its games and having cross-play games to unite more people. Well, they're not interested in creating more cross-play games. And secondly, they're not really focused on VR. They didn't launch a bunch of first-party VR titles last year. That was one of my irritations with my PSVR 2. They launched the Call of the Mountain, and then Synapse was not first-party, but it was heavily promoted, and Synapse was excellent. And then they let a bunch of slop come over. A bunch of bad ports of VR games came over to the VR 2. And I don't think they need to improve their games. I haven't had any issues with PlayStation games that have come out. They've been fantastic. They all have good scores. A lot of them have been nominated. I'm like, I don't get where this narrative comes from that like PlayStation is somehow not doing a good job. Like, I mean, what were you expecting that you're not getting? I don't know. The insecurity and the need to always validate your purchase is crazy, says Brooklyn Breed. Yo, what's good, Brooklyn? Sony aspires to provide 4K 120 and 8K 60 gaming experiences with Spectral Super Resolution technology. All I want is games like Dragon's Dogma 2 locked at 60. I'm just really excuse me, I'm really interested in something. Because I'm going to be discussing Rise of the Ronin with Kirk from What's New Video Games in about 50 minutes. And that game's looking a little rough. And also, according to SkillUp, it doesn't even maintain 60 FPS. Now, Fextra Life said that it did, it was consistent, but I don't know. SkillUp seemed to think it was dropping into the 40s. And then you got Dragon's Dogma 2. Just this week, we're getting 2 games launching that are not hitting next-gen performance in my estimation. Rise of the Ronin does not look next-gen. I know that's not Team Ninja's focus. Okay, if the gameplay's great, I'll enjoy it. But if it can't even maintain 60, it doesn't have the graphics that should be making that a problem. And then Dragon's Dogma 2 is hitting 30. Now, if that starts to become more common, especially with third-party games, do you think the PS5 Pro then becomes even more compelling to third-party developers? Right? Like, hey, man, we've been trying to do this new stuff. We've been trying to push this and push that. And, we're having to cap our games at 30, or we're having to have our game not even consistently hit 60. This PS5 Pro is going to fix all that. FF7 Rebirth could hit 60 with a PS5 Pro. The frick is going on? My opinion is this, says Brooklyn Breed. I wasn't planning on buying the PS5 Pro, but I'll most likely still get it because I like to have the latest and the greatest. Lone Wolf says, other blemishes for games this gen, since you mentioned Survivor, Dragon's Dogma 2 seemingly, and Gotham Knights. Yes. I would agree with those. It may not look like it, but it's 1440, just blurry because FSR2 is incredibly poorly implemented. Which game are you talking about? PSSR will be Cerny, an AMD solution that is customized to specifically do what they needed for the PlayStation. No other general use things like AMD and NVIDIA provide. K Trotter, are you speculating? Or is that something that you've heard? That they worked on some kind of a proprietary solution together. I would be interested. What's this tweet? Only 3 games stuck at 30 FPS only on the PS5 to this list. 60 FPS and above being an option on 99% of PS5 games is easily my favorite next-gen feature. That's one of the reasons, listen, I'm willing to admit that maybe my bias makes me a whole lot more accepting of what we got this gen. Because I wanted 60 FPS. That's what I wanted. And since I have consistently gotten 60 FPS, I'm good. You guys moved the needle on the member counts to 2391. We are 10 members away from 2,400. We just have to hit 2,500 this week. I think the Pro will be 600. However, I'm curious to know if there will be a digital version. I'm curious about that too, Brooklyn. I think it's going to be 600. Apparently, the drive's detachable. I think they're going to do one SKU, personally. I think they're going to do one SKU at 600, and then it just comes with the drive, and you can just take it off if you want. Now, depending on demand, because they've set themselves up to the fact that the SKU is universal, right? You just take the drive off, and then there's the digital version. Maybe they do have a digital version later on. I think initially there will just be the $600 version with the disk drive detachable, and that's it. Slow-mo backslap says, because I know the majority of y'all won't read the article, here you go. Outlined in documents provided to Insider Gaming, the condition that they are not made public. PlayStation's ambitions with PSSR is to achieve 4K 120 and 8K 60. These are not the targets for the PS5 Pro due to hardware limitations. It is the internal goal for PSSR in future console interactions. So what that means is they have built PSSR to also help the PlayStation 6 get 4K 120, 8K 60, and the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to utilize PSSR to get 4K 60, 8K 30. Now, what this does to me, this is the bridge between the PS5 Pro and PS6. That they're building a bridge. Because as developers start to learn how to harness PSSR to get those levels of performance, if that same technology is leverageable on the PS6, they just built a bridge between the two gens with this technology. If it's compatible with the current detachable drive, we can get an idea of the design of the console. What's the lead part of lost lead supposed to mean? I understand the entire phrase and context and all that. Just curious where the lead comes from. I think it's supposed to be like your lead item to get people in, right? In Best Buy, it was always considered a loss lead to sell the new album at a loss. It's called loss leader strategy, actually. I think I've just been switching it to loss lead. A loss leader strategy involves selling a product or service at a price that is not profitable. It is sold to attract new customers to sell additional products or services to them. So it's your leader, right? It's out there being the leader for you. It's getting people in the door. They would sell like the latest Backstreet Boys album at Best Buy. They'd sell it at a loss because they knew people would be just storming the gates to get the latest album. Now they're in your store. They're more likely to buy something else. You're going to make that money back. They were willing to lose $2 or $3 per album sale because if they buy anything else that they're in there, they're going to make that money back and then some. A loss to get a lead, or it's the loss leader, right? It's the leader. It's out in front. It's what's getting people to like, hey, come into our store, come into our ecosystem. Leading people into the aisle, right? Yeah, you're leading people into the store. It's leading the charge. Whatever you want to, however you want to phrase it, that's the idea. Parasito says PSSR is most certainly developed very closely with AMD so that they can integrate the machine learning into RDNA 4, possibly resulting in Sony getting a discount from AMD for the PS6 processors. If Sony did a lot of the heavy lifting, they might give the info to AMD with an agreement that Sony gets something in return. You know what I just thought of too, Parasito? Do you think this technology would make porting games to PC easier? Well, I guess it would only matter if they were AMD cards, though, so maybe not. I was just wondering if this technology would make porting games to PC easier, like if it would streamline the pipeline. But the challenge there would be that if anybody has an NVIDIA card, you'd have to harness DLSS instead. Or any new technology that NVIDIA comes up with. I ate at the Cheesecake Factory this weekend. $5 for some sweet tea, no free refills. I'd have walked out. Where do you live? You try pulling that off in like Kentucky or Tennessee, they'll shut the place down. The cops will just show up and say, this is illegal. This is illegal, y'all. You can't be doing this. You can't sell sweet tea for $5 and not give free refills, okay? We're shutting you down. We've got the fire marshal outside. We're going to board up the doors. All right, everybody go home. That's ridiculous. I tell you what you wouldn't expect to be really good at the Cheesecake Factory is their Baja tacos. The Baja chicken tacos are absolute fire. If you go to Cheesecake Factory anytime in the near future, you got to. It's, oh my gosh. They're so good. They come in like these neat little metal holders too. Oh my goodness. They're so good. $10 to drink 2 glasses of sweet tea. That's ridiculous, man. $10 for 2 glasses of sweet tea. At that point, you might as well just gotten, a couple of beers. You'd have been paying almost the same amount. Sometimes you can get like a light draft beer for like somewhere between $4 and $6. They're soft tacos. Can we just steer the entire conversation to Cheesecake Factory? All right, guys, brand new show now. We're going to be talking about Cheesecake Factory and the fire items on the menu. We're going to have recommendations from the top 5 items that you should buy to the top 5 items that you should skip. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, that bell button. Leave a comment below with your favorite dishes and your favorite drinks. I am available for commercial work, Cheesecake Factory. You know, that could be an audition. I just kind of did that for fun, but Lono doesn't like going off script, but I really feel like we can dig into this cheesecake debate. I really feel like we could spend some time here, boys. You know, we can really figure this out. I think that they know if they continue down the road, it will only increase the development costs for the first-party studios later down the road when they port them to PC. Yo, what's good, Pico? You may as well just order water and then bring along some flavor packets when 1 hour minimum wage labor barely pays for sweet tea. I don't want to live on this planet anymore. Pico de Gallo. Good to see you, Pico. I hope you're well, dude. Me and Pico go way back. We go way back. Excuse me. Now you guys are all talking about food. You see, we're well off course. Listen, do me a favor. Do me a favor. Smash that like button. There's over 700 people here. Let's set our sights on 400 likes. Help me hit that milestone. It helps out the stream. Indulge me for just a second as well. There's a variety of ways to support the stream, and we do continue to ask if you can afford it and you're here on a regular basis. $6 a month gets you a membership, and that gets you in the Discord. That gets you into all the extra content, a daily writer's room segment where we plan the next day. It supports me directly. It's how we do this. We are not a large channel. This channel is not sponsored by a lot of sponsored opportunities. It's largely sponsored by you guys. If you can't afford a membership, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell button. If I'm ever not on your homepage on YouTube, check your subscriber tab. YouTube's been moving stuff around, and sometimes I won't show up on your homepage. We're live Monday through Friday, and those are the best ways to support. Make sure you're subscribed, bell button, like button, and then just be here every day. Hopefully you get it gifted if you can't afford a membership. If you can't afford a membership, man, jump in at the $6. It makes room for other folks. And then if you are a coffee drinker, head to reforgeroast.com. Check out the merch. Check out the coffee. We have a light roast. We have a dark roast. It supports me directly. It is a family small business, basically. My wife and kiddos bag it up and ship it to you. If you've never tried coffee with balanced acidity, you should try our coffee. Very smooth, very drinkable. And people do it black. They do it with creamer. They do it with like a cold brew. So check out reforgeroast.com today. Or the coffee link below in the description of the video. Those are all great ways to support what I do. I don't like to mention that stuff too much and disrupt the show, but we've been going for about an hour and a half. Just a real quick segment to say, hey, you want to support the channel? Those are the ways you can. If you're like, dude, I don't have any extra money right now, no worries. Smashing that like button religiously every day helps. We need like 70 more likes and we'll hit 400. That helps the videos reach and it meets more people. Lono, just want to thank you for recommending Helldivers 2 to me in the writer's room last week. I got the game, I believe, last Thursday or Friday. Been loving it. It's the most fun I've had in a while. It's such a great game. You can just recommend it. You can recommend Helldivers 2 to such a variety of gamers. This is something that I've noticed. Like, they could be like hardcore COD heads. They could be like dudes that like RPGs. They could be like my wife like casually plays co-op games with me, and she has fun playing the game. And I'm telling you, it hits a broad spectrum. You really can recommend Helldivers 2 to a lot of people. And it has done very, very well. I actually didn't check. I was curious if although they were hitting some momentum over the weekend, did they surpass their previous? No. So their peaks over the weekend are now hitting in the high 300,000. So they're not getting into the 400,000s anymore. So we are seeing the very predictable lowering of peaks. That's totally fine. That's not alarming. That's not alarming at all. Let's check the Steam storefront. I'm actually curious how its score has turned around, given all of the problems when it first launched. It now has an 83% on Steam. That's excellent. It's a really good turnaround. I like my video games like I like my coffee, always on performance mode. There you go. What do you think Kirk's going to say about the Pro? Well, Kirk and I today we'll be discussing Rise of the Ronin and why I think it looks rough, which, you know, people are going to disagree with me on this, but I am interested to see how that game performs sales-wise, because there is definitely elements to PlayStation first party, like PlayStation Studios expectations. And I know that Team Ninja is not a PlayStation studio, but the way it's been marketed, I think a lot of people are going to expect that game to be at the fidelity and the performance of a PlayStation like first party game. There's 221,000 people actively playing right now, which is solid for a Monday morning. That is really good. That is really good. Helldivers 2 is on PlayStation 5 and PC. How do you play Helldivers solo? Not for very long. You can play like the lower difficulty solo, but it is certainly not designed for you to play solo. It is very much so designed to be played with others. So, Cowboy says it's a step back from Neo 2. Loves Neo. I don't think it looks rough. It looks like a bit of an animation style. Well, if you guys have comments and ideas and thoughts about Rise of the Ronin, hold them, and make sure and bring that up when I have the show with Kirk. I thought it would be a great second show today after we talk PS5 Pro, after we kind of bat this ball around. Now, I want to ask you guys something. On the price, okay, the PS5 Pro price, do you think they go beyond $600? Because I'm seeing people throw around $600, but there's a part of me that thinks, I don't know, they might really flex on the market and be like, we don't have competition, and when you don't have competition and demand is high, I think demand for the product will be high for moment one. I'm wondering if early adopters pay like a serious premium here and it's $650 or $700. Now, I don't think so. I've made my prediction. I've said it's $600. I think it's going to be $600. But I don't know. If we see a $650 or a $699 price tag, I'd be like, okay, well, when you don't have anybody really competing with you and the demand for the product is high, I mean, they might pull an Apple. I think they might pull an Apple and really have the price set high on this thing. You think $550 for a digital, $650 for the disc. I feel like they're only going to launch one version at the beginning. It's all going to have the disc. More than $600 will be a tough sell, says Eugene. What's their goal? Get them out or maximize cash flow? I don't know, Zuby. I don't know. I think it's $600 and they don't have a digital version to begin with. I think it's only the version with the disc. Yeah. Well, I don't know, though, because they unified the SKU. They can make the base models without the drive. So maybe they do have both versions at launch. You know, $600 for the disc, $550 for discless. But can't you get a PlayStation right now for $550? What's it cost to get the standard PlayStation 5 with the disc drive? Isn't it already $550? I don't think they're going to drop the price of the standard version of the PS5. I don't think they're going to. They don't have a reason to. There's no reason to drop the price. Buy now. What do we got? Let's take a look here on their store. Okay. $500. And this one has the disc drive. So what is it? $450 for the one without? $500 with? $450 without? I'm not even seeing the option to get the digital version on their website. I can't even change versions here. I go back to hardware. Shop PS5. Their website's always been kind of bad, in my opinion. They have a digital bundled version with Spider-Man for $400 right now on their website. $400, no disc, Spider-Man included. But their first-party games don't, you know, they're not the reason why people buy PlayStations. Yeah, sure. $400 for that bundle. That's a pretty good deal right there. And then it's looking like it's $450 for the disc version. Those are the current deals. and then just flat $500 for the disc version with no bundle. You think the PlayStation 5 Pro is digital only and it maximizes their cash flow? Excuse me. The drive alone is 80. Yeah, the drive by itself being 80 is kind of ridiculous, honestly. Like, really? Basically 250 to 300 trade-in credit, which is par for the previous years. Yeah, if you're trading in, that's fantastic. I'm not going to be trading in because it will become the third PlayStation in the house. So if my kiddos and I, if all three of us want to play something, they each get a TV and I'll connect to the Pro with my portal. So we'll be good to go. 3 screens, basically. Okay. So 600. I think it launches 600. I'll be curious to see if they do a digital, if they do just the disc version at the beginning. What's going to be the showcase game for the PS5 Pro? Tsushima 2. Maybe Concord. I don't know. Now, with the PlayStation 4 Pro, they didn't do like launch titles for it. They just had a list of games that looked better. So it's possible they coincide this with Spider-Man DLC and really highlight how much better Spider-Man 2 looks and runs. We know Insomniac loves to throw in more performance modes and more ray tracing modes in their games. They did that with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. So I could see them doing some type of a Spider-Man, because if it's coming fourth quarter this year, there could be like a Spider-Man DLC coming, and that DLC could then be bundled. Now, people are saying GTA 6. Yes. We've seen a lot of speculation about GTA 6 somehow being involved here and being optimized for the PlayStation 5 Pro. I'm thinking within the realm of PlayStation Studios, they're supposedly announcing Ghost of Tsushima 2 this summer. Now, I don't think they announced the PS5 Pro this summer. I don't think they do. I don't think they want to mention this thing until they're 1 to 2 months away from it releasing. So the PS4 Pro was announced in like September, and then it came out in November. I think they do the same thing this year. I think they do a PlayStation 5 Pro State of Play in September, and then pre-orders open up in October. Maybe pre-orders, I don't know. And then the thing releases in November. It's some kind of a timeline like that. I don't think they want their summer marketing push to be sort of lampooned by the PS5 Pro, because that hurts demand for the standard PS5. They don't want to mention the PS5 Pro until the last moment possible. So I think they do a state of play just about the PS5 Pro in September. If you're thinking from a business sense, think about the most accessories they can have with it. That's maximizing your cash flow. I'm not sure I know what I'm not sure what you're saying, Marcus. I could see it being $750 Canadian, $850 after tax. Base PS5 disc is already $720 Canadian. I can't make predictions about Canadian money because it's made out of maple syrup. I have a hard time understanding, currency rates up there. That's too much chatter already. There's too much chatter already, says Parasito. Would not be surprised if they accidentally have a trailer this summer for a game that has made for the PS5 Pro watermark on it somewhere. Parasito, there's a big difference between chatter and leaks and trailers that get millions of views and are seen by John Q. Public. I think there's a big difference. If you think about the concentric circles that go out of the gaming world, I don't think this is even making significant landfall on the general public just yet. Well, I heard there was a PlayStation 5 Pro coming. That's not going to get as much traction as an actual trailer, Discussing the Pro spec, any significant attention given to enhance the Portal experience? I've not heard anything, Omar. They've made updates to the Portal that they haven't drawn a ton of attention to, and the last couple of times I've used my Portal, I have been blown away by how smooth it is. When I'm at home on the same network, it's remarkable. That silly Lono, they use maple leaves and moose fur as money. Get it right? Sorry. That's right. I didn't mean to offend any Canadians. Really, they should be the ones saying sorry to me, but, you know, because they're Canadians after all. But I feel like they need at least one big first-party game that takes full advantage of the PS5 Pro at launch. I don't disagree with you, but I also don't think you're going to get that. I don't think that's the focus. I think the focus of a PS5 Pro, think about their ability to go look at games like Returnal and Ragnarok, Gran Turismo 7, Horizon Forbidden West, Spider-Man 2, and they are able to show off these modes, these stats. People are going to be like, oh my gosh, Spider-Man at 4K 60, Horizon Forbidden West at 4K 60. You see what I'm saying? Like, they can leverage, because you have to think about something. Their catalog of games is so strong this gen. All they've got to do is take that catalog and bump it up. There's a lot of marketing power with brands like Ragnarok and Spider-Man. It's pronounced sorry. That's right. True Witty with 11 months. Lono, the Sony Blu-ray player is about $70 to $270, so $80 for the disc for the PS5 is very good. It's not a bad price in terms of what the product is. I just don't like it because it's like you save $50 by opting to not get the drive, and if you add the drive later, it costs you more money. That's my issue with it, primarily. They just need to say play quality graphics at performance frame rates. Yeah, something like that, for sure. For sure. I don't even know what's that from. Nicola saying, this is the BS with Xbox fans trying to spin what was said on stage to make it sound like there was no actual promise or lie. The language was clear. They even had Todd Howard in their marketing hype to trailer to sell you on it. What's that clip about? What happens in that clip? Helldivers 2 in 4K 60? Oh my gosh. Yeah, dude. Stop being a pony? I'm not even, like, I just don't accept those tribal lines anymore. I think people bang on those tribal drums because they have small brains. Like, they can't see the world any bigger than that. Like, they're limited to that. It's like when you go to the restaurant and they give you the kids menu and they only give you 3 crayons. Like, that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with somebody who only has 3 crayons in the crayon box. Like, I don't even care to indulge it anymore. It's like, you called me a pony because I bought games and liked them. I bought a console and like it, you know. I bought another console and haven't liked it and haven't enjoyed it. I know you're joking, but I know what today's show will be spun as because, you know, it's the impotence of small minds. Like, they just can't come up with anything else to say, so they just continue to say the same things, you know. That's the Scorpio reveal. Oh, they're talking about bringing VR. Yeah. This man want to be a pony, let him be. Well, I had some people in my studio last night, and they were asking about my rigs and like how old they were. And I said that it probably was time for me to upgrade, you know, because my gaming rig is, I think I got the gaming rig in like 2018. I think it's old. You know, the 2080 Ti rig that's sitting over there. I think it was 2018. I could check my emails to get the exact timeline. And then I think I got my streaming rig in like 2019. Maybe early 2020. So it is probably time for me to bite the bullet and do a bunch of upgrades. And listen, if I upgrade to a monster PC and I can throw every game in the world at it, I'll be more likely to play PC games when I stream. Right now, with the 2080 Ti, and it's an older rig, and sometimes it acts kind of goofy with me, I just prefer to not even bother. It's like, I don't even want to mess with it. You know? I had some crashes a while back, and then it felt like we got the crashes to stop. So there's always that there's always that fear of like, oh, I'm going to have issues, I'm going to have a crash, I'm going to have a problem. And when I play a game on my PlayStation, even my Switch, you know, I've done some Switch games. It's like for streams. Like, I just know I don't have to worry about anything. Don't upgrade if you're going to cover console gaming. Yeah, but for certain games, it would be nice to have PC as a fallback. Like, you know, for games like Hellblade 2, Dragon's Dogma 2, it would be nice to have that fallback. Now, the PS5 Pro could change all of this and walk onto the battlefield and say, listen, third-party games are going to be able to do 60 over here. You're not going to be dealing with that in Dragon's Dogma 2, or if Hellblade 2 gets ported to PlayStation later on or whatever. So that's the only real reason I would like to have like a beastly PC. In the streaming world, you know, we definitely want to get into the realm where we can leverage some of the new technology that YouTube and other platforms are going to start utilizing for video compression, and you need newer video cards for some of that stuff. Like, what's it called? What was it called? I can't remember what it's called. The V1 or something. There's stuff that you can start. They're going to start implementing that if you use it, you can stream with like half the bandwidth. Because you're able to. It's something with the compression in the video card. I forget what it's called. Throwing my bet out now, says Parasito. Early September announcement with pre-orders. 2 or 3 bundles available for summer announced games. November, December delivery for holiday. Yeah, I think that lines up a lot with my own thinking, Parasito. AV1, that's what it is. Thank you, guys. AV1. I don't even know if they've implemented that yet. Has that been implemented on YouTube's end? Like, if I were to upgrade and start streaming with AV1, is that, you know... Intel, AV1 encoding on Intel cards or dedicated encoders at the moment. Yeah, that'll spread, become more commonplace, and then the platforms will support it, and it'll be great. Because if I'm streaming at a lower bandwidth, you can watch and get way less buffering. You can watch on slower internet connections because I'm not sending such a like a beefy signal, if that makes sense. PS5 and the Series X were touted as Unreal 5 ready. I get popping on Fortnite, jumping out the battle bus on the PS5. Unreal Engine games don't run well on these consoles. Lords of the Fallen, for example. Pro hopefully helps with this. Belly Boy, I don't know if that's the consoles as much as it is people jumped over to UE5 and they don't know what they're doing yet. Like, are they just having trouble with optimization? Because I don't... Haven't the Unreal 5 games also had issues on PC as well? The Unreal Engine itself is just not... It's not the promised land everybody thought it was going to be. I think the Decima engine's proving itself, and the RE engine, I think those are probably 2 of the best engines on the market. And then maybe you could look to Insomniac's proprietary engine. But I think UE5 just has issues. It's not this wonderful promised land that a lot of people thought it was going to be, which is a little concerning because you have guys like CD Projekt Red that moved all of their new projects to UE5. Coalition's moving everything to UE5. Hellblade 2 moved everything to UE5. So yeah, I don't know. I look at Decima. I look at the RE engine. I look at Snowdrop. I think those are very impressive engines. And then Insomniac's internal proprietary engine. I think those are probably the best engines on the market. I would love to see more companies switch to Decima, because Decima seems to pair very well with DLSS. I don't know how it pairs with FSR, but some of the stuff they've been able to do with Decima and DLSS, if the Nintendo Switch 2 can actually leverage DLSS, it'd be amazing to have like Decima engine games running on a Switch 2 at performance that you would never expect on hardware of that power. Like what they were able to do with Death Stranding 2. I'm sorry, with Death Stranding 1 and DLSS was really impressive. So, the PS5 Pro and later will unlock UE5's bag of magic tricks? Maybe. This is where 30 is standard idea is coming from. How does the tech site not know that 60 is standard this gen? What's Red Gaming Tech saying? He says, for real, for the PS6, I really do hope 60 FPS games become the normal, but being realistic, I suspect we'll start to see the hardware get pushed again and eventually 30 FPS becomes non-uncommon. It's the issue with fixed hardware specs. And Nicola says, dude, there's 3,140 games on the PS5, and only 4 of them force you to play at 30. 60 FPS is the normal. Right, like, I don't get where this narrative comes from. I was brainstorming with Kirk about what show we wanted to do. And we got on the 60 versus 30 FPS thing with Dragon's Dogma 2. And he started saying some of the things that I've kind of heard from other people that, like, yeah, this generation's just really failing to give us 60 FPS. I'm like, what are you talking about? Not him specifically. Like, he was commentating on the narrative and some of the things that we were seeing in the public. And I'm like, what are these people talking about? Where is this, industry-wide problem of 30 FPS? Where? A handful of games this gen have done it. A handful. And it's like this industry-wide problem? Like, what? Like, PlayStation Studios have had no problem doing 60 FPS. Not a problem. Every game has a 60 FPS mode. So, clearly, there's something else going on when these games are launching and they're not giving you 60 on console. It's either a choice, it's either because it's multi-plat, and they weren't bothered to optimize. They're like, we're not spending time on that. You get 30 FPS. There you go. The narrative comes from people carrying water for Xbox. I mean, it's hard not to see that as the trend. It's like, you guys are acting like this is a problem. Like, yeah, this generation didn't make good on its promises when you're talking about Starfield. And it's like, well, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Tons of games have come out at 60. We need to be prepared that we'll be seeing new games at 30 only. That's the real future we need to be prepared for. I don't agree with that at all. I refuse to think that, like, Ghost of Tsushima 2 is going to be a 30. Or Spider-Man 3 or Wolverine. Those games aren't going to be a 30. Do you seriously think right now first-party PlayStation studios are cooking up games that are going to be capped at 30? I don't think so. And Final Fantasy 16 could give you 60 all of the time because they give it to you in combat. That was a creative choice that they made. They could give you 60 all the time because they give it to you in combat. It's a creative choice for them to, like, turn it off once combat's over. Agree to disagree? What pattern in the market right now, Jake, do you see that you think that's what's coming? That's the reason for the Pro? You're not looking at the stats for the Pro if you think that. The stats for the Pro are not indicating that, well, this is needed because we're going to struggle to get 60. The Pro is aiming at higher performance than the PlayStation 5. They're aiming at 4K 60, 8K 30. That is not a signpost that says we're going to struggle to get 60 with a lot of these new games. 4K 60 is what they're targeting. That means that you should be able to get lower resolution modes on the PS5 and still get 60. You should still be able to get 1080 internal, upscale to 1440, 60 modes on the PS5. That should still be possible. Just because the PS5 Pro is coming out and saying, hey, we're going to give you this 4K 60 mode, that doesn't mean that we're not able to hit 60. Look at these new big games, Dragon's Dogma 2. Look at you said games plural. Where are all the other big games doing this? Where? You have Dragon's Dogma 2, okay? Who else? What other big games are doing this? Is there a single PlayStation Studio game that has done that this generation? Which one? It feels like we're picking and saying, this is a mark that we're going to get 30 FPS games. Okay, well, if I give you all of the games hitting 60 on PlayStation 5, if I give you all of those games, that's a better pattern of delivery than a couple of games. You can believe and think what you want, all good. I'm just saying, I'll not be surprised if it's reality. But you're not telling me how you arrived at that conclusion. You said Dragon's Dogma 2. I want to know how you arrived at that conclusion. You're not going to compel me, but how did you get compelled to think that? What games in the market are telling you this? AV1 streaming is supported by YouTube. It's actually what they appear to be using internally for their own compression. Intel Arc and 40 series NVIDIA cards have AV1 encoding built in. You should be able to do CPU encoding for AV1 right now if desired. No upgrade needed. Would be fine in terms of performance for your right now, considering you've got a streaming PC. I don't even know if that's an option in OBS. Output. Streaming. And video encoder. Yeah, according to this, I can pick SVT AV1 or AOM AV1. It's actually saying I can do that. I have AOM. I'll have to research that. It looks like we can do AV1 right now. In OBS on the stuff that we have. I don't know. I didn't know that. It won't be the last 30 FPS game. That doesn't mean that we should be expecting 30 FPS game to be the standard again. I can agree with that. I can agree with that. SVT AV1 is recommended. Support added in V29. Okay, SVT AV1. I'll have to experiment with that when we're not in a public stream. I can't do that. Oh, it's a Saturday. Okay. I was like, what? A 2080 Ti doesn't support AV1. He's saying that the CPU can do it. Yeah, I think I'll agree with that. Jake says, all I'm saying, there's a reason the Pro is a thing. Because if the standard PS5 could run everything at 60 and up, the end generation, then why have the Pro? See, Jake, this is where I feel like conversations like this can be frustrating because I feel like you're not listening. So I'm going to say it again, and we're going to see if we can get to a consensus of understanding. The PlayStation 5 Pro is not targeting 60. It's targeting 4K 60. That is currently not a problem when games come out. We're not like, oh, they went 4K and, you know, we're getting 30. Because all the quality modes give us 4K 30, and then the performance mode gives us 1440 60 or like 1080 upscaled, okay? So you're misdiagnosing what the PlayStation 5 Pro is aiming at. You're doing the, and this is why I'm pushing back, you're doing the false narrative thing that I'm seeing on Twitter. Yeah, PS5 can't cut it, we need the Pro. But, okay, let's look at the specs that the PS5 Pro is targeting. 4K 60, 8K 30. That is currently not a challenge that we are trying to solve or being frustrated by. I've not bought a single game for my PlayStation 5 and thought, what a joke, I can't get 4K 60. I can't believe I can't get 8K 30. That's never been the thing. That's never been the frustration. The PlayStation 5 Pro is also adding way more ray tracing capabilities, which developers really want. So what you're saying isn't rooted in any of the information that we have. It's literally just a speculative statement rooted in anti-PlayStation mantras of like, yeah, the PlayStation 5 just isn't good enough. We can't get 60 out of it consistently. According to who? Who said that? Every PlayStation studio gave us great quality modes and great performance mode this gen. I see no indication that the PlayStation 5 is a bottlenecked system that can't hit 60. We have more evidence that it can hit 60 than it can't. I'm just not sure if the 4K 60 option is worth the price. Because most will stick with the standard PS5 if that's the case. Well, see, and that's totally fine. That means they're satisfied with 1440 60. They're like, yeah, I'm good. 1440 60 looks beautiful. Even if it's 1080 upscaled, like internal 1080 of Returnal upscaled, internal still looks beautiful and it runs so smooth. So for the average person, you're probably right. They're like, yeah, I don't need that. But that's not what this is designed for. This is designed for the front of the way people who want the absolute best performance. They want the best hardware. They want to upgrade right away. Is Lono currently giving Sony $600? Will Lono give Sony $600 for a PS5 Pro? Will Sony make profit? If so, then make and sell the PS5 Pro. Yeah, I mean, there's consumers that want it. There's consumers willing to buy it. I was only pushing back against the notion that, like, the PS5 Pro is needed because the PS5 is not able to hit 60. That just simply isn't true. You can't demonstrate that. You can demonstrate third-party developers choosing to make creative decisions, like Final Fantasy 16 won't give me dynamic resolution all the time, so I only get 60 FPS in combat. Or you could look at the performance mode of Jedi Survivor at launch, or you could look at Dragon's Dogma 2. Those are third-party developers making their own creative choices. The PlayStation 5 has demonstrated for 4 years 60 FPS ain't a problem. Whether you play Demon's Souls Remake or Returnal or Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart or Horizon Forbidden West or Gran Turismo 7 or God of War Ragnarok or Spider-Man 2. It's not an issue. It's not a problem. So this false narrative that, like, well, the PS5 Pro is solving this problem. Yeah, the PS5 is just not strong enough and we just can't get 60 FPS and we've just been getting so many 30 FPS games. You're listening to the wrong content creators or the wrong news sources if you believe that. Either that or you just haven't played any of the games I just rattled off. I don't know how you buy a PS5 and buy all those games that I just rattled off and buy into the notion that we're just not getting 60 FPS this gen. Like, that's, like, quite literally, it's just literally a lie propagated by people who are trying to hand wave their own 30 FPS first party titles. That's where that comes from. That's where that comes from. Like, when I was critical of Final Fantasy 16, I got that from some of the Sony guys. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Yes, it is. We were promised a game that was going to show off the power of the PlayStation 5. Not a game that was going to dip into 45 frames per second on performance mode. There's still a world where whatever Naughty Dog is working on won't hit 60 on the standard PS5. Speculation, unfounded speculation, given what we've seen they could do with the remake and the remaster of the first two games. That's pretty much all I'm saying. Not saying it's factual at all, just a scenario that could be true. I don't see evidence to think that that's true, given what they were able to do with the power of the PS5 in the remake of Part 1 and the remaster of Part 2. What you're saying, again, it's just unfounded speculation. It's like, what? I don't see any evidence that Naughty Dog is going to be like, yeah, no, let's make the third game 30 FPS on the PS5. That would be ridiculous. They want to have, as far as I can tell, they want to have a baseline of performance and quality for the PS5 and for the first-party games. So the idea that that's going to happen doesn't make any sense, because it's like you'd go from Part 1 to Part 2 to Part 3, and all of a sudden Part 3 can't do what the first two can. That wouldn't make any sense. The pattern seems to be they want that. They want that standard performance to be available in those games. I think it's why I believe that Horizon Zero Dawn's getting a remaster. I think they want all their first-party property at that baseline of performance. So there's no question, whether you buy the PS5 or the Pro, you're going to be getting those options of performance and quality. What did they do? TLU 2 looks the same before and after. It looks the same before and after. They didn't do any graphical upgrades. They didn't change anything. It was literally just, what is it, fake? Is it not real? Doesn't exist? What are you talking about? People are forgetting that Sony has games running above 60 FPS already. Yeah, if you feel like you haven't gotten games that have run 60, or you haven't gotten games that have, made good on the next gen promises, I feel like you're playing the wrong games. Spider-Man, Miles, GT7, Ragnarok, and I'm sure others are running higher than 60 in the VRR modes. Hang on, I got to get Discord open over here and get Kirk on. Yeah, there's no sign that we can't get 30. There's no sign that we're headed to getting 30. I don't see any evidence of that. I see evidence of the contrary. Okay, pop this out. Put this over here. And then let me get a browser opened. Gotta come over here.
Gotta get your face off my TV.
Do it. Can't have that echo. That would be terrible.
Calls me while I am peeing. had to run back to my, to my computer.
Well, you could always join the call after. Jiminy Christmas. You know?
You don't want to wait. You know what I'm saying?
It's not that urgent.
He's an important guy in the space. You know, you gotta be ready to go. What's going on, man?
I'm good. Okay.
You're galloping pretty hard today.
I don't know. It doesn't even feel like a gallop.
It's a nice pony trot. It's a nice.
Well, what it is it's all by design. It's throw out a false narrative that requires a response. When false narrative gets slapped down, it's look at this pony coping. Like it's just a stupid. It's just such a predictable playbook at this point.
I think that you are under articulating or undermining the fact that you're sort of dismissing this new wave of non 60 FPS games as well. It's creative decisions, and I think it's like yes, like that is, I would say that's a reductive take, but it's an accurate one also. But I don't know that it necessarily, it sort of shoves it out of the way when, like, I think what that then brings to the forefront is, well, but we still need the new hardware to play these games because for whatever reason the devs are making them to where they don't perform the way that we want them to on console. I don't know why they're doing that, but if you can't give me 1080p 60, then I guess I gotta go buy new hardware to play it at 1080p 60. I don't know why. I
guess my question would be, what wave? Like what wave are we talking about? What games?
I mean, we're gonna talk about one today, ostensibly, but no, I mean, like Gotham Knights is a bad one, right? Like, it's pretty much 30 frames.
Yeah, and they did something
Dragon's
weird
Dogma
with
is gonna be 30 frames. Dragon's Dogma is 30 frames uncapped. Like, it's not even like they capped it at 30. It just doesn't run better. And Dragon's Dogma 2, obviously. It just doesn't run better than like 35 frames per second. Now, that's a creative decision. So is Starfield. Like, they want those games in 4K. But I bet you that on PS6 or maybe even the PS5 Pro, they'll have a 60 frames version for those games. So it's like, I don't know. I get what I think people are saying, like, hey, games are not running at 60 consistently anymore like they used to. That means that I have to go buy a Pro.
As long as they're not a first-party PlayStation studio, there's not a PlayStation studio doing that. There's no pattern within.
I don't know that matters. Like, I don't know that I agree with you, and I don't know, like, yes.
So you think that Gotham Knights and Dragon's Dogma 2 is enough to say there's a change happening here? Like, I'm not seeing this from other third-party developers.
Well, not those two games alone. I mean, I'm noticing the beginnings of a pattern, and I'm not, and Rise of the Ronin is falls into that as well, and I think.
Well, we'll get into that because we'll need Digital Foundry to do that breakdown because Vextra Life seemed to think that it was running fine on performance mode. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And even then, that sounds like something that could be optimized later. They're not saying there's a difference between like Rise of the Ronin saying, "Hey, we need to push out some optimization patches for the frame dips," and Rise of the Ronin didn't come out and say, "Oh, our game's 30 FPS." Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
Like Dragon's Dogma and Gotham Knights flat out came out and said, "Our games are 30."
Yeah, but why? Why are they 30?
Well, the Gotham Knights analysis was that they did something with ray tracing where they baked it into the game and it couldn't be turned off. They decided that the lighting would be...
Right, so that's bad game design, I would argue.
Right, like you can't turn ray tracing off. Like, what the frick? You know, like, okay, well, I guess we're all going to have that performance then because that was a decision that they made.
I think what I'm trying to say, Lono, is that we agree differently, you know? Like, I think what I'm trying to say is you're dismissing a lot of people that actually sort of agree with you, but they have the sort of alternative viewpoint of, gosh, it sucks that I can't play it looks like a lot of games are going to come out in the future that I'm not going to be able to play at 60 frames if I keep a PS5 and I don't get a Pro. I think that's the sentiment, but they're not disagreeing with you inherently. Yeah, like we all agree that Sony first party studios bring the A game, you know? Like I don't think that's going to be a problem going forward. But it's like there's these other third party developers that are not giving us 60 FPS games for whatever reason, and we're like, ah, crap, I guess I got to go buy a Pro for that. Or you're excited about it, and you're like, oh, I'm going to go buy a Pro because all my games are going to run better. Yay. Like, you know, it just depends on your perspective.
I wonder if GTA 6 is where some of this is coming from, because I think it's such a lightning rod game where the speculation is it's not going to be able to hit 60. It's just going to be too big, too graphically intense. So outside of that, though, I'm just not seeing the pattern and the fear being founded, because I don't think Dragon's Dogma is like an industry flagship of like, oh, I can't believe they decided to do this. You know, it's not GTA 6. It's not like Red Dead 3's coming out and saying, yeah, we're 30. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's where I get off the train. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm disappointed that some of these games are coming out at 30. Right? There's people worried that Hellblade 2 is going to come out at 30.
To be clear, you're saying 30. I'm thinking non-60, I guess. So I'm thinking towards the end of the PlayStation 4 Pro life cycle, or I guess towards the end of the PlayStation 4 life cycle, we got the Pro, and then we got towards the end of that, games were coming out like a Sekiro, like a Dark Souls 3, which really wasn't even towards the end, so maybe I shouldn't even say that. But like these games were like 40, 45, and like now those games run really stable 60, like Sekiro lock 60 on PS5, and it's damn, man, like if I can get Sekiro at lock 60 on PS5, but other games aren't lock 60 on PS5, like what are we doing? So I mean, I guess that's maybe where people are saying like, oh, this is what was promised, but I don't think it was promised. I think it was expected maybe, but I can understand that, like when you had games that were running 1080p 60 pretty consistently and reliably, like game after game after game, that was cross-gen. And now games are coming out that aren't cross-gen, like a Gotham Knights, like a Dragon's Dogma 2, Redfall, even though it's not on PlayStation. You know, we got games coming out now that don't have a 1080p 60 performance mode that's reliable. Why is that happening? Like, I feel like people, like, it's understandable for people to be like, that sucks, and I guess that makes people either angry that the Pro exists because it's like, oh, it's to try to sell me this thing, or they're excited the Pro exists because they're like, oh, I get to play those games in a better version now. You know, those are the two takes, I feel like.
I think my concern will only go up if first-party PlayStation studios start launching games and saying, yeah, this is at 30, sorry. These are multi-plat games that keep doing this, which adds some credence to the value of an exclusive, that they can optimize every square inch of a game when it's only built for one system. So I actually think maybe the trend will start to show up more with third-party games, which could put the PS5 Pro into
That's all I'm saying.
Well, and that could put the PS5 Pro into a unique situation to say, hey, we're still getting 60 on these games. Like we're able to give that to you, because if they're able to use that AI upscaling, then the devs don't really have to do a lot of work according to the leaks. Like they're able to leverage it a lot easier. So I actually think that's going to put the Pro into a very I don't know. You could see third-party but you could see third-party companies saying, let's just do timed exclusivity because we can make the game run better over there. Like it could make.
We talked about that on a previous show. Go check that out on the Reforge Gaming channel.
Yeah, that's the exclusives are bad debate.
Yeah.
That was a good discussion. Make sure and check that guys out. Check that one out. Okay, I'm gonna quickly run upstairs. Be right back. We are gonna have a new stream about Rise of Ronin looks rough, and I'm open to disagreement here. I know Team Ninja guys are gonna be like, this guy's an idiot. The game looks phenomenal. We're going to be, looking at some of, we've got Skill Up's preview. We're going to be referencing him, Fextra Life, and others who have been talking about how the game plays, and giving some of our thoughts on, hey, the game's coming out this week. Let's have a discussion about how it looks, how it's performing. And so Kurt can chat with you guys for a minute while I run upstairs. I'll be right back. And well, before I do that, give me an audio, like normal audio sentence. Maybe make sure you're not too high or too low.
Testing.
Okay, I had you too low.
I went outside and I crossed the street.
Yeah, I had you too low.
There was a chicken there.
Okay. I've got you kind of high, so no yelling, okay. All right?
Yeah, because
you'll blow their eardrums.
When do I do that?
I don't have a compressor on you, so. All right.
If you know there's one thing that I don't do, it's yell obnoxiously.
Yeah, I don't know why I had a fear you would.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
you know, that's an unfounded fear, I guess. I'll be right back.
That's dark. What are you talking about? Mr. B asked, "What are Gamecocks?" So it's the South Carolina Gamecocks. That is my alma mater, and they are the 6th seed in the NCAA tournament. And they're probably going to lose first round, but hopefully they don't. So, I don't know how many of you guys are sports guys here. Mr. B, I've seen some negative stuff too, and we're going to talk about that in the next stream, but it's difficult for us because this week in particular, I just and this may be a problem going forward, I just don't have any type of early access to anything. So yeah, Dawn Staley. I don't have any type of access to Rise of Ronin or Dragon's Dogma 2 or Princess Peach. I mean, Princess Peach, I do, but we didn't want to cover that necessarily. We didn't really think you guys would go for that. But yeah, like, so neither of us have played it at all. So it's very speculative. So you won't see me be like as hard on it as you would something like Sea of Thieves or whatever, where I can like just go play it. More into F1, not American football. I used to be really into F1, but now Max Verstappen just wins everything, so that's no fun. Gilup's preview got me worried about Rise of the Ronin, says Fitness Mad. Same for us, I think, or at least me. I think I might take his recommendation and go play Like a Dragon Ishin instead, because I love Like a Dragon very much. Ninja likes it rough. That's great. Oh man. Max is a very good racer. Michigan will be in the tournament again. They have been a good team. Oh, because you're from the Netherlands. That makes sense. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're very entertained.
Okay.
I got him talking about sports, Lono. It's your worst nightmare.
Talking about sports and calling me Lono. Here we go.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I did. That's the first time in a while. Give me some credit.
I think it's an accent thing too. I think you just default to that pronunciation.
Yeah. Lono. Oh no. Apollo Anton Lono.
Okay. Oh, let me get the member goal off there. We did enough for the day. We don't need any more.
I'm saying Rise of the Ronin looks like a PS2 game. What? I won't care what anyone has to say about that game on March 22nd. I mean, I do think it's going to be very fun. I think it's going to be a good time. We're going to get into it.
Yeah, we're going to get into it because I actually am going to play it. I'm going to play with my wife. It looks good.
Nice. I was telling them, like, as opposed to like Sea of Thieves or maybe like you with Skull and Bones or whatever, like, as opposed to like a game where like you or I can like actually play it before we talk about it and then can be scathing with it. Like this one, like we kind of have to be speculative. So I don't expect either of us to be like lighting it up or anything, because like we have sort of the professional courtesy or understanding of like, if I haven't gone hands-on controller, like I can't just tear a game up. Like,
yeah.
I have no idea, like, so
yeah,
you can really only be speculative there.
There's a link in chat, guys. We're also going to redirect you. It'll also be the featured video on the channel. Do me a favor. You guys did amazing on this stream. We hit 400 likes. That's phenomenal. When we get over there, really focus on getting those first 100 likes, because we always end up very lopsided on a new stream. Like tons of people pile in, but a lot of you are lurking and you forget to press the like button. So help me out there. I don't like to do that during a show with a guest where I'm like, hey guys, give us the likes, so make sure and do that as soon as we get over there. So you can click the link in chat or ride the redirect. I'm going to be silent for like 5 seconds and start the show. Thanks for checking out this video that I do on Mondays, sitting down with Kirk from What's New Video Games, and his name will be clickable in the link below. And we're talking about Rise of the Ronin and how it's looking a little rough. Not necessarily bad, but we're hearing some frames per second maybe issues. Also, people are taking issue with the fidelity of the game. Some saying it does not look like a current gen game, but then the pushback is it's a Team Ninja game. So we're going to be kind of chopping that up because the game comes out this week. And it's not the only game coming out this week with some performance, faux pas, we'll say that. So thanks for being here, Kirk. Glad to have you back once more.
Always a pleasure. Got to come up with something different to say, but it's always a pleasure.
I'm going to end the previous stream and redirect everybody over and make sure as you guys come over that you smash that